Hello everyone. Hope you guys had a good Sabbath. Decided to discuss usual time. It's an open hangout. Just random things about theology. Um, I do conversations on Wednesdays with my denomination investigation. But today we're just gonna have an open hangout, see if we can get a discussion going. Yeah, I'd just like to introduce people who've gone already. We've got Wolf, we've got Edo. So guys, Wolf,
What's up?
How's it going?
I don't, yeah, guys,
Where can you find us? We're in the
real.
room. Jesus Christ.
Your channel, just tell them like what you're doing. Your channel,
Yeah,
all that.
yeah, for my channel, you can check out Wolfgang Atheism. Just type it in the chat and you'll find it.
Cool. Okay, so on G plus, hopefully we can join. I'll put the YouTube video in the chat as well. Or G con, hopefully he comes on. So yeah.
And Zula, what do you think of Trump?
Me, the guy's a boss. The guy's a
He's a what?
legend. He's a legend.
Mm.
You need something like him, someone like him in your country. He's actually gonna do some. He's gonna get things sorted, get things done for once.
I mean, he knows like about TV. I mean, that's sort of his skill set, but I feel like that's sort of the extent of his abilities. I mean, I see why you would say that because he panders a lot to the Christian narrative in the states. He pays a lot of lip service to them. We're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. Get like rallies for their support, so they sort of glorify him as being like chosen by God. But honestly, I, I mean, to me, he kind of seems like an apatheist. Like he doesn't really, right? He can give less of a damn about it. You know,
Mm.
I
I
don't,
see what
like
you mean.
don't know why he keeps.
for this. Hold on, let me and then you guys can talk. Let's say this: if the United States was a majority Muslim nation, he'd probably be like all about the old taqiyya and like about the Quran and saying like, oh, Muhammad's words, they were tremendous in their thought. Like, you know what I'm talking about.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm still trying to understand why he keeps having rallies because to me the rallies seem at this point in time pointless.
Okay. Oh, by the way, what time is it where you guys are at the moment? Because over here it's 7 at night.
Yeah, it's coming up for 11:30, UK time zone.
Yeah, because I think Americans' time zone is quite able, maybe a bit busy being able to join at the moment. Maybe that's why. They're later we go, the more people come on. Actually, I think Kumba said he's doing a show, right? Oh, okay, that makes sense.
And hilarious. You think aliens are real?
Andreas, hey man, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Good. Hey, you thinking about maybe we can start talking about or anything?
I don't know. I mean, I've been thinking about. I don't know. There's nothing really on my mind. Anything on your mind?
Well, I have, but I can't say. I'll tell you off live because yeah.
Hey, what do you guys think about artificial intelligence?
I think it's fake.
I think it's an interesting idea, but I think it's dangerous to implement it into first world, like into the real world, without seriously considering the repercussions it could have.
Yeah, you need
If you release
you sort of need like rules like Isaac Asimov's 3 basic laws and stuff like that.
Could you say what the laws are, just for laymen that don't understand that or aren't familiar with them?
Basically, robots can't harm humans. Anything with that crap. Hang on.
Yeah, I think they can't.
I'll link it.
They can't harm humans. They have to obey humans, and I can't remember what the third one is.
The third one is the robot has to protect itself, which is what causes it to violate it.
Self-preservation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, I got it. Yeah, that's actually right though.
But so I mean, if you introduce that rule where it's robots are having to preserve themselves, you could have it being where there's special instances where the rules become violated for specific instances.
Yeah, I mean, Asimov, in one of Asimov's stories, he actually did that, of where the rules were violated for that very reason.
I mean, it's like people say there's always an exception to the rule, which I can agree with. It's just it depends on the particular scenario. Because there's sometimes where you can say, okay, that's justifiable, and sometimes where you can say, no, that's not justifiable at all. It has to be more strict or has to be more conformed.
Yeah, but the rules can still work if you put it on a hierarchy. So if you say cannot harm humans, and that's at the very top, and then everything else falls below that, then the rules would still work.
Of course, but then again, you come into the paradox of what if harming humans is humans harming themselves?
Oh, sorry, say that again?
So with that rule specifically, what if you have a scenario where it's supposed to protect humans, right? It's not allowed to harm humans. But what if what it's doing is that humans are harming themselves? How would that situation be resolved? So you have a scenario where these robots can't harm these humans, but these humans are harming other humans. What's the robot supposed to do? Is it supposed to protect the other humans, or it's supposed to?
The rule can still work, because basically what it would simply do would be to stop the human that's hurting the other human. So not necessarily hurt, using the term human too many times, but basically protect. So you can act as a shield, it can restrain, so it doesn't actually have to hurt in order to protect the other human. So it's open to options.
Yeah, I think it comes down to kind of like an isolation concept, but it also comes down to the lesser of two evils as well.
Yeah, you could say that.
I remember watching that iRobot movie where these laws sort of were applied and shit. I remember that it was
it was really interesting just seeing how far like the robots thought and logic. Like, I'm not gonna say it exceeded that of humans, but they just thought about like preserving their purpose so much that it kind of went against the humans' interest. Like they just wanted to have a giant safe space for them. It was like we don't want that.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that bothers me a little bit with AI, from the little bit I've read on AI, in essence, what they've been trying to do is to I mean, what they've been working primarily with software, and they're trying to get this thing to teach itself, to learn, and to a certain degree, it does that. And to me, that's the worrying aspect, because when it starts to teach itself and it starts to learn, you're not really in control of its development.
And I think that depends on what it's learning, though. Also, is it learning about human history? Is it learning about mathematics? Is it learning about sociocultural dynamics? What is it learning about? And more importantly, where is it learning it from? Because you could have, people that are mentally insane teaching this stuff, and if that's what the robot's going to, then of course the robot's going to inherit some of those ideologies.
I
So
mean,
they're
yeah,
kind of
the stuff I've seen so far, they've been trying to get it to not just understand speech, but to also learn how to respond to speech. And they've had people actually speaking to in essence, a machine without realizing it, because it's been responding in a manner that sounds natural.
right. But would you say to properly understand speech and like how language works, that the robot or program would have to have empathy or sympathy to do that?
Yeah. No, I mean, it doesn't need to have any of those. It just needs to understand what reactions or what words to basically regurgitate.
But I guess that kind of makes it more of a analytical process, because it's proposing the idea that when somebody says something, there's a specific way that you're supposed to respond or that you have to respond. Where we see it all the times where I'll say something that's off the cusp and somebody will respond to it. Maybe they respond to it negatively, but another person responds to it in a way that's productive and that informs me about, oh, you were wrong on this part, but the other part was good, or something like that.
I mean, yeah, I mean, from what I've seen, I don't know how far they've gone, because my information's about 7 odd years out of date. But from what I remember, is that in essence, it's mimicry. So for you, the human interacting with it, it feels like you're dealing with a human being, because the right cues are being hit. But as you pointed out, it's simply just going through literally a mathematical program, and it's just regurgitating stuff out.
Right. And so if you introduce a situation where it becomes a paradox, where you have a situation, the response re-engages that situation now, and it just continues itself in an infinite loop. Well, it's going by program, yeah, but it's also not able to resolve it, because all it knows how to do is to program. It can't find another solution. So that could become an issue as well, where only one solution doesn't really work.
Yeah, up to a point, but that's where this learning comes in, and that's what makes it dangerous. It's like they had this now Reading, it was Reading University, and they had the dwarf robots. Don't ask me why they call the robots dwarf. It's literally just it's like a three-wheeled robot, and they speak to each other, and there's like a charging point, and they know when to go get themselves charged, etc. And because they can speak to each other, they're able to transfer information with themselves. And what they then did with these robots was they had them communicate over the internet with each other. So you could have a robot in, say, US, and you've got another robot in, say, South Africa, and they're teaching each other. across the internet. And they've actually taken these things to school, and the kids think it's all nice and cute. But the creators noted that when they had a larger version of the robot, I think the thing was like 4 foot or something like that, people were a little bit intimidated. So when it's nice and small and all cute, people are like, oh my god, it's a lovely little robot, it's all cute. But when they made it larger, it's a case of, okay, I've got a problem with this thing. It's okay, it's exactly the same program that's running, it's the same thing. Because yeah, but it's big now. Now that it's big, I've got a problem with it.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I can definitely understand the aspect where something being big might be frightening, and also the aspect that, I guess my question would be like, what is the limit of these machines being able to exchange and process information with each other? Could a machine, say, in China assess a computer in America and the computer in China says to the computer in America, oh, you're about to die in X some number of days, or it notices that there's a virus within that computer or something like that. Like, what's the limit to their understanding and communication with each other?
Yeah. At the moment, my understanding is that as far as what they're able to do, there is no real limit. So in essence, what the internet does is it's acting as a literally like a doorway, and it's call it like a portal, and it's getting rid of all that distance. So we have the concept of distance, but for them, when they're communicating, that concept of distance isn't there. It makes absolutely no difference to them. So it could be a mile, it could be 5 miles, it could be 100 miles. For them, it's the distance is actually meaningless.
Yeah, the distance is zero. The travel time, it is almost instantaneous.
I mean, yeah. So for them, if you so in theory, you could get one machine to analyze another machine remotely and fix whatever problems that needs to be fixed, as long as it's within its capacity, and vice versa.
Yeah, that's a true point. Anybody else got an opinion on this?
About what, the robot thing?
Well, yeah, either that or like just artificial intelligence in general, I guess.
I think I read somewhere about there being this like prediction for this technological singularity where humans and technology will become merged or something like that. I think I remember hearing that, like some guy writing a book about that. I think it's kind of interesting. I mean, I mean that'd be cool if soldiers in war like that lost limbs and stuff were replaced with like robotic limbs, cybernetic limbs, or like eyes, or for medical practices. That might be interesting. I don't know about like, you know, simulating completely like the Borg or some off some sci-fi show or whatever. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
I think a similar issue you run into as well is that what if the robot, you know, it can be destroyed, but it's not really destroyed? What if the robot can reassemble itself?
I mean, in essence, we're using the term robot, but it's really AI. So as long as the AI is somewhere, it can rebuild a body for itself.
Yeah, I'm trying to, well, I'm conflating the two, but I'm kind of trying to use them interchangeably with each other. But yeah, for the sake of this, I'll use artificial intelligence.
There's actually something that's actually happening here in the UK in the medical field. And what it is they're using AI to diagnose illnesses. And what they're planning, they haven't done it yet. I think they're still doing a pilot in it. But what you can do with this pilot system they've currently got going is that you can basically phone up. Well, it's not phone. Yeah, phone up a doctor, but what you're phoning up is not a real doctor. It's literally a software. It's an AI, artificial intelligence that you're actually interacting with, and you give it all your symptoms, and it literally runs through its data bank of what your possible illnesses could be, and it will diagnose your illness for you. And it's something they're thinking of trying to initiate with the NHS as a way of cutting costs.
I think I've also heard it taking one step further, where a robot was they programmed it to, I believe it was like how a grape has a very thin layer on it, and they had it in essence they had it surgically remove the thin layer of the grape peel on it, but then for it to also reapply it and stitch it back together, and it did it very well. It did it almost perfectly. But the idea was to see how precise the robot could be if it had to perform surgery or make an incision, and then once it was done, to repair or to fix the damage it had caused, which was very interesting.
I mean, yeah, because I mean the field is it seems to be going in leaps and bounds. Like I said, my information is a little bit dated, um, but from the things that I've seen that are becoming more and more commonplace, like voice recognition. Because I remember literally over 10 years, actually, it was over 10 years ago, voice recognition software it wasn't bad, but it wasn't good. But nowadays, the voice recognition software, especially what you get on phones, it's like it can recognize different accents, different pronunciations. The accuracy is it's ridiculous considering.
Yeah, that's a really curious thing, and I've seen like in stores where they've taken it to that like light bulbs or sprinklers and things like that, where if you clap your hands, if you clap it once, the light bulb will turn on. But if you clap it twice, for instance, the light bulb will turn off. So it's acting as an algorithm. So if I were to do a specific action once, it would trigger something to happen. Whereas if I did something more than once or a specific number of times, like 3 or 5 or 2, it might cause it to turn off. So it's not only using voice recognition, but also recognizing if a person does some specific action to trigger some specific event.
Yeah, I mean that's actually quite old school. That was actually the first things they did. I actually remember with the light of where you'd clap, especially with lamps. You'd clap and the lamp would come on, and if you clap again, although it was simpler because it was a case of one clap on, one clap off, and they had some issues with loud bang. So if it was a loud bang, it will sometimes interpret that as basically a signal and switch things on and switch things on and off. Yeah, but that's going back. That's quite old school.
Yeah, it is an interesting concept. I do think the concept of man and machine kind of becoming one, like the whole cyborg kind of concept, if you'll call it that, is a really controversial issue, but also it's a thought intriguing kind of issue on the ethical frontier.
I mean, yeah, but they've more or less crossed that barrier because you've got the bionic eye, you've got the artificial heart, you've got the what's that other one? It's a brain implant for people who are bipolar. So they've pretty much actually crossed that bridge. I mean, you've got ear implants as well for people who are deaf, and they've crossed the bridge. It's just that it's not, you don't hear about it every day, so it's not commonplace. So some people don't realize that certain things have already been done.
Yeah, that's true. You could say it's seeping its way into our culture more and more and more.
I mean, yeah, because I remember because they actually featured it on Radio 4, and it was somebody who was blind, and then they put in a bionic eye, and you could see for the first time. And just talk about how fantastic it was, and he was amazed, and all these colors and shapes. And I'm like, wow, because it's not just a simple, it's not just a simple, you stick it in. You've got to wire that thing to the brain. That's getting the optic nerves and whatnot. So when you actually think about it, it's a complex operation. Right. Does anybody else have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think you guys hear me? Yeah, I think plays a big part with in my view. I think it's a new world order kind of thing, to try and achieve immortality with merging man to a computer. I know some people believe it is an part of evolutionary stage um, to achieve a kind of higher consciousness or immortality to become a machine. That's the kind of concepts I hear from merging man to machine. Other than that, cybernetics, I think that's a kind of okay in the sense that it allows people with one hand to utilize another using robotics. But then when you start to make into metal and things like that, it can kind of be very controversial in my idea.
Yeah, I suppose you could say that. I mean, at the moment, it's from the bits that I know of. At the moment, it's literally used to aid people who have disabilities, i.e., blindness, deafness, that kind of thing. So far, no one that I'm aware of, at any rate, has gone down the road of trying to see if they can achieve immortality through it, or like create a artificial body with a human brain. However, I do know that they're trying to create, well, not trying to, they've created artificial brains, but the artificial brains that they've created is nowhere near as sophisticated as the human brain. But they're using the human brain as the base model.
Yeah, God is the greatest designer in anatomy. See how great his design is. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the human body, if you look at the cell, if you just get one DNA strand 3 times, you just look how complex the body is. You can just see, and you can tell that logic tells me that this cannot be a mistake. Just like on Earth, you can't get something from nothing. There's a cause.
But I think we shouldn't confuse our version of complexity as necessarily meaning that it was designed. Because for me, the way I take it is that it is what it is, and exactly how it came to be, I really don't know. I can't 100% say it was this way or it was that way, but I do know that in terms of complexity, we try and view things in a in an arena of where, if we don't understand it, we say it's complex, and if we understand it within reason, we start to say, okay, it's relatively simple. I mean, if you look at some of the things that we are doing today, if you were to go back 500 years ago, they'll be like, whoa, that's impossible. How are you guys doing that? But when you actually break down the concepts, you find out that even though something looks complicated, when you break it down, you find that it's just a collection of simple processes. When you start to look into it in detail, literally these things are simple processes working together.
I know what you mean, but you know, you got to look at it from a mindset, a logical mindset. You know, we've always seen something making something else, and we say that life can come from nothing. It's kind of pathetic and it's nonsensical because it goes against nature and goes against everything we've always seen. We always known that life comes from life. This is 1 verse 1. There's no contradiction to nature. There's a claim being made to the earth, and we know that God is eternal, meaning He does not operate, or He's not in time and space. He's in eternity, and He simply is self-sustaining. So if you put everything together, it kind of works, and
Yeah,
it kind of works.
Yeah, but that's one model that has a lot of assumptions behind it. There's very little supporting it outside of the assumptions.
I mean, then you can say, what about all the other gods? But then that's a different story. The point is, right, we're trying to get someone, I'm not saying I'm trying to get someone out of atheism, but trying to get them to think logically. And then from there on, they can start thinking about gods or God. But just to make them think, you can't get life from non-life. That's a basic thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but this goes back to our understanding. Our current understanding is flawed, and with I'm gonna speak for atheists if I can take that mantle on. But in general, what atheists are saying is not necessarily that there's no God. What they're saying is that they can't see any reason to believe in a God, because when you actually look at how things form, it is quite chaotic.
Wolf King, are you there? Wolf King.
Yo, Wolf, you still here? Doesn't sound like he is.
Someone wants to comment, but they don't want to be in the same room as Wolf. So if he's not here, I might as well kick him out. Wolf. Yeah, I'm gonna take him out. Yeah, sorry, dude. But yeah, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, Ido, but you know, in their view, right? They're coming from a worldview where everything's subjective, and when there's no objectivity, there's no, you know, there isn't a strong foundation, because that very foundation is an objective. And when there's no objectivity, just like mathematics is I would say mathematics is objective. The mathematic formula and sums, they're objective and it works. Mathematics works, and we see that it works. This is subjective. However you are, if you get two objects, you add another object, it's three objects. So, right? But then when you have man's own reasoning and you start going into theology, and be subjective, when if you look deep into you gotta look at the claim deep, and you gotta study and look at you know, the objectivity, and you'll find it, and you'll see that it's similar to mathematics.
Yeah, I mean, the thing to remember about mathematics is it's a tool, and it's how you use it.
I mean, in my view, I honestly, the you know, from my view, I feel like the God of the Bible, right, is revealed the truth, creation, right. This he has allowed so much corruption and so much thought. It's kind of held us back, becoming humble anymore to actually, you know, and look at and look at what the word is telling us. And I think you need to mute, dude.
I mean, for me, the problem I have with God of the Bible, well, the problem I have with the Abrahamic faith Bible in general, is that it doesn't actually tell you the point of existence other than to worship this entity. And if the whole point of existence is to worship an entity, it kind of demonstrates an entity that is shallow. Doesn't I mean outside of saying worship me, it doesn't seem to offer anything else.
Well, I mean, the reason why created, yes, is to worship. I agree, but the thing is, what you got to think about is you got to think about the reason why created, yes, but you also got to think about um, why we've been preserved and what he has in store for us. Because obviously we know that we're special beings, and we know that we all love and have emotions and experiences that are very precious. So we must logically understand that this can't be it. This can't be the end to life. The importance of life and the reward of life, to why he's allowed things to happen the way they've happened. I mean, for example, you mentioned something about being created to worship. Nothing wrong with that. I don't have a problem with worshiping God. Happy to be in the presence of someone that's all good. I mean, why would I not want to be happy to be in the presence or to worship someone that's all good? There's nothing wrong with that. I have nothing against that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a case of the way I see it is if we accept the biblical God. So what this entity has done is to create human beings, give human beings inquisitive mind, and then tell them not to use that inquisitive mind.
Well, I mean, I'm using my inquisitive mind right now to converse with you, so he's telling me not to use my inquisitive mind. I would say that actually he tells me to use my inquisitive mind, because we are in a time where there's a lot of things that are going on that are contrary to his word, and which allows us now to use our inquisitive mind to question these things, and allows us to challenge these things. So I feel like we're actually, as a believer, you're actually thinking more, and you're freely utilizing your inquisitive mind as a believer. I've been using my mind better, doing these hangouts, evangelizing, talking to people. Otherwise, I would probably see myself, average 18-year-old, go drinking, partying, sleeping with 20 girls. So I feel like I'm better in this situation I'm in now, believing in God, rather than being in another life, doing some other things.
I mean, I've heard people say that before, and for me, I don't take it as a valid argument, because as somebody who went through my teens, I didn't drink, I didn't sleep around, I didn't mess around, I didn't think about doing drugs, and I think sometimes people go to the extremes, and what I'm saying is, if you have an inquisitive mind, you want to find out how things work, you want to investigate things. If you're in the Abrahamic faith, that's not really encouraged. And if you believe that you're here to basically worship God, well, right, I'm worshiping God, what else do I do? Well, I don't need to do anything else because I'm fulfilling my my design function. So I'm doing as I've been told to do.
Can I ask you a question, Edo? Let me give you an example. You know, a can opener, right? It's made to open cans. And you've made this can opener for the simple thing just to make cans. One day when this can opener thinks, you know, why should I be making cans? Opening cans? I don't want to be opening cans. My whole life, you know, I've been told make cans, make cans, make cans. I open cans. I don't want to open cans. Well, I made you to open cans. Why are you not doing what I made you to do? Basically what you're basically saying.
Not exactly, because if you design a can opener to open cans, and that's the function you give it, and that's the parameters it operates in, it has no desire to do something other than that, because that's basically its entire function. That's its design. But if you create a can opener and you give it the ability to develop itself to do other things, and then tell it, I really don't want you to do those other things that I gave you the ability to do. I just want you to just stick to making to opening cans. Then you have a problem.
But the thing is, people assume that because they're not believing in God, they're not doing what they're made to do, which is to worship. The function is to worship, right? Of worshiping something, right? You have your own idols, objects, you know, natural gods. So even if you're not worshiping the one and true God, you still you may think you're living a natural world where you're not worshiping anything, your free thoughts and everything. But whatever you are doing, you're still worshiping something. So that coding in you to worship or to give your time or energy to, whether you choose to give it to your maker or you choose to give it to a natural object. So for the can, for example, the can may choose not to open cans for me. The can opener might want to open cans for somebody else. So.
Yeah, but it's still I mean, I know what you're saying, but the analogy doesn't completely go through. With people verinating objects or showing appreciation for certain things, it's because of what they're experiencing directly. So I can show appreciation to the sun because I'm experiencing the sun directly. I can show appreciation to an animal that's been slaughtered because I'm going to partake of its meat. So I'm experiencing it. It's not separate from me. It's because what the problem I have with mainstream religion is there's a lot of faith. There's a lot of assumption that there's something out there. I can't prove it, but I know for a fact that there's something out there, and it wants me to do this. Although it hasn't told me this, I've never experienced it. I mean, the list goes on, but because I've read it and I've decided to accept what I've read, then I'm going to base everything on it. And for me, I think that's a little, I find that to be problematic, because I compare that to, I can see the sun, I can see the moon, I can see the rivers, I can see the ocean, I can see the grass. I can see these things, I can experience these things, I can interact with these things. Hence, if I show appreciation for it, to me, there's nothing wrong with that. That's completely consistent with living in the natural world versus showing appreciation for something that I cannot see, I cannot experience. And to make it worse, there are multiple variations or variants of it, and all these other guys with their own versions are squabbling as to who's right and who's wrong.
I can ask you a question, Edo. Have you ever actually sat down and actually communicated with the creator and actually asked him to reveal himself to you, or generally asked him to because you do admit, right? I assume that you admit that this is not a coincidence, right? And that there definitely is a cause for everything, right? Whether you believe it's God or energy or whatever, have you actually approached the creator and actually asked him to represent or to express himself to you to in a way that you will know that he's there?
Well, I mean, I did that when I was little. My background's Christianity. Part of that was Roman Catholic Christianity. And I went through all that and I asked questions. And when I asked questions, what became very clear to me was that a lot of people simply accepted because it was convenient. Very few people actually knew what they believed in, and very few people actually even understood the translations of what they thought they were reading.
Mm. I mean, yes, human interpretation or human error is a very big problem because humans tend to get things wrong because that's what we are. We are humans. I'm talking about a God, right? That is perfect and that is and has an infinite mind, rather say. Whereas humans, we have finite minds, and as humans, we tend to try and um, um, in human shoes, or we try and decrease His Majesty to our level. When we don't try, when we need to try and understand that God is infinity times greater than anything we could even think of. So when you actually saying to God, reveal yourself to me, show me, you're true and everything. Seriously, because we're talking about a being here with an immense amount of power to create galaxies, creation life simply by speaking. So this is a serious deal. I mean, agnostic on that, or not care, but when the judgment day comes and he says, what can you really do? I mean, you've been given the opportunity. Men live up to 70 score years.
Can
The
I?
life you have.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give a reply in the form of a question, which is, do you think that an all-knowing entity, the best plan that it could come up with for educating humanity was this, as an all-knowing entity?
Sorry, can you repeat your question?
Yeah, I said that. Do you believe that the plan that has been laid out, or the plan that we've been told has been laid out, does that plan strike you as the plan that would come from an all-knowing entity, an entity that's wise beyond measure? Because for me, when I see the plan, it's a plan with a lot of flaws.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The thing is with God, right? He deals with people differently. And way he'll, for example, the way he dealt with me is not the same way he deals you. Obviously, he's more complex than that. You will look at your personal experiences. He will look at if you're ignorant to certain things, and he will also have grace and mercy on certain things. It's a personal development. That is why the Holy Spirit or God's Spirit is working in every one of us. So when we're convicted of a decision, between a right and wrongdoing, that's constantly being recorded in the book of life, constantly being recorded for judgment day. So as a personal experience, I cannot condemn you in any way to say, why did you give up on God? Why did you give up on Yahweh? Why did you give up on Elohim or whatever? Because I don't know your personal experience. All I can tell you is to carry on and keep strong, keep the faith, because as corrupt the world is, there's plenty of distractions. I mean, look at the media, look at terrorism. It's all these stuff. It's all distractions, and it's all stopping us from developing, into greater things. The way I see it is, I've got 70, maybe a few more years, 70 years to live on this earth, right? How am I gonna live those 70 years Am I going to live those 70 years doing what my maker made me to do, against my maker, and face the punishment? And as I like to call it, am I going to be deleted from the game that my player wants me to be?
I mean, I hear you, but it's, to me, it's still a flawed plan, because
How? He's won.
because you throw humanity into chaos, and you have all this confusion going around the place, and then you then say, if you make the wrong decision, I'm gonna punish you for it. However, I'm the one who actually created the chaos, created the confusion, and I'm the one who threw you into that confusion with little or no knowledge. But I'm holding you 100% accountable if you make the wrong choice. To me, that's a seriously flawed plan, and it doesn't make any sense.
I mean, the way he made us, we were made perfect. I'm sure you know the story. I don't need to explain it. But we were made in a perfect state. And I think our downfall, not that it was God's error, was given responsibility and given the thought. Because if you look at a child, for example, a child is given the choice, I'm gonna go to work now. Don't touch that cookie jar. The child's got 3 thoughts, and judging from his past experiences, he's been told not to do things in the past, and has been slapped, presumably from which culture you come from. So the child at this stage, knows, she really doesn't want me to touch this cookie jar, and she's gone. She's left me with the responsibility. Am I going to do what she tells me, or am I going to do my own thing? Bearing in mind, the child still has a knowledge of good and evil and a knowledge of decision making and 3 thoughts. Who goes ahead and takes the cookie jar, knowing the consequences, but driven by his eyes and by desires, he disobeys, even knowing the consequences, later on regretting. Same thing with the Adam and Eve story. The fact that God made us imperfect, or he was in error in his design, is that we were given too many privileges instead of using them to glorify him. So this is another thing a lot of agnostics and atheists do. They point the finger at God like, you made me this way to me. But we forget that as humans, because of the, giving the responsibilities, we abuse something. So I don't see God being in fault here for creating us. I see ourselves taking. Do you understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I know where you're coming from, but to me, the argument still falls flat, because, like I said, you're dealing with an entity that's all-knowing. If I know that what I'm going to do is going to end in failure, I'm not going to do it, because there's no value in doing something that ends in failure. And if you go through the biblical stories, it's not written in a fashion of an entity that actually knows what's going to happen. Because if you know what's going to happen, you don't get upset, because you already know it's going to happen. You're already aware that it's going to happen. You don't act like, oh my God, you just did that. You just did that. Did you just do that? Oh, you shouldn't have done that. You already know. So if you know it's going to end in failure, why bother? What's the I mean, what I'm saying is, like, what's the point?
But the thing is, Edo, it's like to God, 1,000 years is like a day. So, and this is me now diving into territory now, because I don't know what God is thinking. So I'm speaking very lightly, because I don't want to do it wrong to myself by trying to get into God's mind. But let me just give you kind of a simple analogy. If you look at God, right, God, like I said earlier, 1,000 years is like a day to him. So he's made these human beings. They've messed up. The plan's successful, and now all waiting for is Jesus' return. The end result is millions of people are saved. He's going to spend an eternity with them in heaven. In the end, it wasn't a failure because the creation he so loved, to be with him even after the mistake his creation made. So to him, all these years that we see all these 14,000 years and thinking, wow, God's taken a long time, But like I said, to like years we die, to God, all these years are going past like a few hours, a few days. My children are coming to heaven. So all these things are going by really fast, right? And days, but you have got your 70 score years, you've got your years now, and your decision making is dependent on where you stand in the end. So it's not a matter of looking back, he made us this way, we're like this, we're like this. You're in this situation now, and you have to deal with it. Given the materials, the tools to get yourself out of this situation. But not you in particular, but generalizing, people are not utilizing these skills to get themselves out of this situation to meet him in eternity. So I see this as we need to stop complaining about the situation we're in and actually see how to get out of the situation.
Yeah, but you're still making a lot of assumptions. There's a ridiculous amount of assumptions being made in order to justify a faulty plan. Because, like I said, I know my experiment's going to be a failure, so I'm not going to waste my time with that experiment.
But the point is, how are you determining if he failed or not? Because I just explained to you how he has succeeded. Because the end result is eternal life. In that regards, I would say the individual human that has made his life to hell has failed, but God as the creator, I would say he has succeeded, because no matter the situation, he still managed to pave a way for us to meet him in eternity. So I see that as an success rather than a failure, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's paved the way for a select few to meet him, and we're assuming that he's paved the way, because when you start to look at the text, especially because you actually just referenced it about Jesus coming back, and oh good grief, I can't remember which verse it was in, but I can remember the phrase, and I believe some other people have mentioned this before. When Jesus made that statement of coming back, he was talking about the people there and then, which means Jesus has been and gone. Because when he said, this generation shall not pass, well, that generation's gone. It's past. So he's been, if we're taking the story at face value, he's been and he's gone.
Hello, Zulu.
Hello?
How you doing, bro?
Hello, Marshall? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, how you doing, bro?
Yeah, we're in the middle of a hangout, yeah. I get what you're saying, I get what you're saying, Edo. But these are all points that you're pulling up, right, that a lot of people commonly know. We know about the account of Jesus saying, before your generation. But if you look at the general context and you look at the chronological order as well, for example, there's a clear indication things that are happening in biblical prophecy, which is leading us to the truth that we are in the end times and that there is a great coming of Jesus Christ. So the point I was trying to make, can't keep complaining about the situation we're in, because if the materials are there, if the great revelation is there, utilize this and apply this to our daily lives to get us out of the situation we're in. And if God left us here with all this sinful nature and there wasn't a way out, but because there's a way out, there's nothing really we can complain about, if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I understand you. No, I understand you, and it goes back to the assumptions, because the assumption is the Abrahamic God, but we know that there are various gods. There were gods before the Abrahamic gods came in. There were gods during the Abrahamic, and if you do a deep study of biblical script, you can actually see elements of these other deities being incorporated into the Bible.
Okay, but even if we got some similarities, right, does that mean that God is actually not real?
Yes, but which God?
No, because we know for a fact that there is only one God, but the thing that what you gotta do is actually see which God is actually the right one. We got 3,000 gods, and I believe that one God of this Abrahamic faith is actually the right one. Because when you look, for example, into Buddhism, when you look into Hinduism, you see that those religions actually they don't actually worship God. They worship someone rather than God.
I mean, I would disagree with that. I would say that what they have done is they have a God that reflects them, just as the Abrahamic faiths have a God that represents them or reflects them.
Well, no,
It's
what
just a
I'm
case of
saying, well, no, hold on. What I'm saying to you is, it depends what you mean by God. Because, for example, if you look into Christianity, we're gonna see that people they don't actually worship God, but they worship a human being to get to God. And this is what I'm saying. This is the problem.
Yeah, don't forget Marshall is a Muslim, so he considers
Right.
No,
all of this sort of
general.
thing to be a shirk.
No, general. I'm saying, for example, depends when someone actually believes in God, and that's the issue. Because we know if there is a God, then you gotta believe in that God alone. You don't need to get someone to help you get to that God. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but let's look at that for a minute, right? Because when you talk about the Rasul, when you talk about the Prophet Muhammad, his name itself means to be worshipped.
Say
And
peace
then
be
when you
upon him, man.
right. So
Right.
the second thing is that when you talk about how to get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or to have in the birds of green bellies around the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is supposedly the greatest method of death, and to be reborn in that type of situation, to follow what? You have to follow the sunnah of the prophet. You have to do everything the prophet does. So if you're following the prophet, who are you actually mimicking?
No. Hold on, bro. Hold on. That's a fallacy. We don't actually. This is the problem that I actually face with when I'm talking to those atheists. They think that a Muslim actually follow or worship the prophet. No, this is wrong. We follow what the prophet did. We follow what he said, because he's one of our good examples. He's our role model. But we don't worship him. We worship God alone. We worship the
I
God
didn't
of
say
Jesus.
worship.
We worship the
Follow.
God of Jesus. We worship the God of Moses. We worship the God of Noah. We worship the God of Adam.
Yes, but you
So yeah,
just told a Jesus follower that he's worshiping
we
Jesus alone and not
no
the Father.
we follow his teachings. We follow what he's doing.
Follow
We
his
don't we don't
message. Even
we
wipe
don't
your hand the same
we
way he does, which is
because
why we
hold on
use the
because
right
he is
hand.
the
So you
final
can't deny
because
that because you're talking to a former
all right,
Salafi.
bro. All right, let me explain. All right, because he is a prophet. He is the final messenger from God. So he received revelation, and the Quran says we have revealed the revelation to him to explain it. So he's explaining what God revealed to him. We don't worship him.
What is the Quran say concerning him when it says that the Quran is the criteria and Muhammad is the living what?
Nah, it doesn't.
It
Nah,
says
no,
he's
no,
the
no, no,
living
no. That's
one.
wrong, man. That's wrong.
Hold up. I'm gonna pull it up. See,
All
this
right,
what
but
happened
hold
if you
on.
don't know your
All
book.
right.
You gotta know your
Uh,
book.
nah,
You,
bro. I'm more likely, even you can bring that up and I can correct you. So no worry.
correct me.
All
Correct. You're
right, bro.
not gonna be able to correct me. You're not a sheikh. You're not on that
Uh,
level.
We all
Made
learn,
mistakes
right?
before.
We all
Yeah,
learn,
that's why I'm
right?
telling you. I know
All
what it
right.
says concerning. So it says he's the living Quran, and he is the example for the Muslim. And
He
you
is.
follow. You don't
I
exceed him.
agree. I
You don't
agree.
exactly.
So let me
So this is
repeat what I
exactly
said. Let
worship.
me, bro, King. Let me repeat what I said. I said we follow his teaching. He's our good example. He's our good model. He's our role model. So there's a difference between following someone and worshiping him. Worshiping means to pray to him, but we do not pray to him. We pray to God.
You pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without a doubt, but you follow his
Absolutely.
techniques in order to be right by God. And the
No, we
Christian,
follow his
hold
teaching.
up, let me finish. And the Christian will follow Jesus' techniques to be right by God. And we would follow the Nasu, or the king that was raised in Kemet at the time, to be right by Necher, or by God.
So
Even though we call the
okay.
gods planets and the things that affect human beings around us.
All
Go
right,
ahead.
bro. But what I'm saying to you, if we all believe that there is a God, yeah, we have to worship that God. We don't need to take some human being to help us get to God. I mean, we can simply worship and pray to that God alone. Why do
So
we need
why
to
do you
take
follow the
Jesus? Hold on. Those are prophet. You gotta make a distinction between what is a prophet and what is a God. Prophet actually are those people who will actually help us understand the message of God. So
you follow
so
the prophet to understand the message of God, and you follow the prophet to emulate what God wants you to do. So you contradict yourself there, right? Because you
hold
have
on.
to
Let me.
follow the
I'm
prophet
not.
to
I'm
know what
not.
God
I'm not
wants you to do.
contradiction. I'm not contradicting myself. The Quran says. The Quran explicitly says we have revealed the book to the prophet to explain it and make it clear to them. So he's explaining what's in the Quran.
And follow who? You gonna make me
The
read the hadith?
did you get what I said? Don't
Yes.
don't play those silly
Did you
games. I'm
understand what
saying
you said before you
I'm
said
saying
that?
if I ask a general who is a Christian and I asked him, how do you understand the message of God? He would say through the prophets.
He would
No, I
say through
won't.
the Son of God, Jesus.
No, you worship a
I'd
human
say it's
being to get to God. This is wrong, man.
no.
This is
I would
blasphemy.
I would say
This is a
You
blasphemy.
would say through the
I would
prophet.
say through the logos, not
All
through
right, all
anyone
right,
else.
general. So hold on, general. If people in the fourth century, right, and then, for example, in the time of Moses, how those people could understand the message of God?
Because God had to do kenosis, he had to empty himself down to our level, and that's through
No,
Christ,
I'm
obviously.
saying no, general. I'm saying those people they had prophet, and those prophet their mission was actually to explain the message of God to them.
Yeah.
So this is the purpose. This is
So
the
so
goal.
that no, but that's the point. You're missing the point. I could
I'm
direct the
not.
question back to you in Islam. How does Allah ever communicate
General, no.
his
Before you ask me the
one second, let
Hold
me
question.
on,
let
let
me
him
finish
finish,
my
Marshall.
All,
question.
Yeah, you hopping in a little too much.
all
Let him
right,
finish.
right. I apologize, bro.
So the same, in fact, it's a bigger problem in your theology, because in your theology is so far removed from creation that when he interacts with you and me, he does so through apparently
All,
is
all,
as much of as a creature as you and me. But so who's the mediator between the angel and Allah? You have an infinite regression.
mm-hmm. Okay, so then why Christians when they want to worship God, they get to Jesus? I mean, why don't they just worship the God of Jesus? I mean, why do they need to believe in their Savior just to get to God? This is like polytheism. I mean, believing in a human being to get to the Almighty God. This is wrong because you're believing in a
Is
human
is
being.
was the logos a human being?
Was Jesus a human being? This is the question. Was Jesus a human being?
No, the question. No, I didn't say Jesus. I
He
said
didn't say
was the
No,
Jesus. He
no.
said
Logos.
I'm saying this is the question. Was Jesus a human being?
Jesus was a human being.
Yeah,
Now
Jesus.
was the Logos a human being?
All right. Okay. So when Jesus was a human being, yeah, and then we got the Father who is in heaven, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then
What?
why do I need why do I need to believe in that human being, Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, to get to God? Why do I need why just simply believe and pray to that God alone?
Is Jesus the Logos incarnate? Yes or no?
I don't believe that.
So he says no.
Well, that's why your questions are all muddied.
All right, but I'm asking
Once
you.
you understand,
All
once
right,
you
but I'm
gonna take
asking
it.
understand, once,
All right,
sorry,
but
one second.
You present
One
a question,
second.
Marshall.
Once you understand the logic behind the incarnation, that you have God Himself incarnate and condescend Himself to our level. Ultimate example is Jesus. Then your question is completely moot. There's no need for such a
I
question.
mean, this is what you think. But if we're gonna challenge that, what you believe, we're gonna find and we're gonna conclude that your belief is actually not true, and it is based on some polytheistic belief because you believe in a human being to get to the Almighty God. So that's like
No,
limiting God. Yes, you do.
I'm not believing in a human being to get to God. Again,
So
is Jesus
Jesus
the
Christ was not a
Logos
human.
incarnate?
See, I
This
don't
is
even
what you
mind
believe.
saying that. I don't even
This is
mind
what
saying that a human being is the way to God because you've just told us your prophet is the way that you understand God as well. But
But we don't
here's
not
the thing.
worship him. But the issue is the problem.
You
The
already said your issue.
problem.
The
The
problem is
issue. Nah.
you
The
believe
problem
Marshall,
is
the real Marshall, you
the
haven't answered my question. The real question
no.
here
The
is how
problem
did
is
Allah,
and
infinite
but
wisdom,
answer
to
my
get
question. Answer my
how
question
did he
first,
do
if you could
Marshall,
please.
you already answered your question. Now we need to be able to ask you one.
All
So
right, but answer the question first.
we already answered
Nah,
that
you
question.
I
didn't.
already
I'm saying,
did.
do I need to worship a human being to get to God?
We don't
Say you need to follow
worship
the
the human.
Prophet Muhammad
I already
to get
answered
to
by
Allah.
saying
All right, so okay, hold on. So you don't believe? Okay, so you don't worship a human being, right?
It doesn't matter. You said he's the way. So you've
Nah, bro.
admitted that you need
Nah, you're being
follow what he
emotional.
does.
Nah,
Get to Allah.
you're not coaching the Quran. You're not coaching the Bible. Sorry.
The Quran
I mean,
says what? Allah, Muhammad is the way.
even hold on, even if Jesus
Let's quote the
Christ, peace be,
Quran. No.
hold on, hold on.
Don't run, because I know you'll say you don't know the language, right? So let's
Nah,
go.
hold on, man. Let me finish.
You
Let me
did.
finish,
You
bro.
did. Let us finish. You done hopped
let
in
me
about 16 times.
let me
So let us
finish.
finish.
Let me
So it
finish,
says,
bro.
let me finish the point. Then you can come back. It says,
Nah.
Uhuwa lahu ahad, Allahu aswamad. Lam yulid wa lam yulad, wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad.
Yes.
Huwa will state that he is alone.
One. Let me translate that. Let me translate that.
Let me go there.
Let me
Let me go
translate
there. I
what you
already know the
read.
translation.
Okay.
And then I'll give you the real translation. Go ahead.
Okay.
Allah, who is one.
Says, hold on, bro. Let me do it.
Marshall, I can't even
Allah
hear
will
Uzzah
eternal
saying
refuge.
anything. Can you stop butting in?
Right. He neither begets nor is born. Nor is there to him any equivalent. That's the exact translation. Now, here's the problem.
All right.
I'm not done. So you say things like Allah is one and can't be born. There's a problem if your God doesn't beget already. But number two, when you say things like Huwa,
Oh my good. Oh
and
my
then you say that
goodness. This is
Huwa,
really funny.
pay attention, Marshall. This is why your logic seems dumbfounded when you come in these conversations. So when you talk about the Huwa, the human being is supposed to know Allah through the Huwa, through his oneness. But if you are one alone and you are nature, there's no possible way that I can know you. And the universe begets. So there's a problem with your contingent being, because there's no way for a man to know something that is not of his nature or of a
Okay,
nature like it.
all right. So you finished, right?
Go ahead.
Okay, so the verse which you have just read actually supports my contention, because it says God is one, He begets not, nor is He begotten, and there is nothing like unto God. So that's actually does not work for your faith, because you believe in a human being, which you both are the same. I don't believe in a human
No,
being. I believe no, no,
that's
hold on,
not
hold on.
that's not what
Yeah.
Musa is saying.
Not our faith at all, and you didn't
Yeah.
answer
No,
the question.
no,
The
that's the
question
verse.
is, how can you know
Can I
God if he's not of a nature?
also can I
Go ahead,
paraphrase
brother.
what you just got?
I'm
I'll paraphrase
explaining the
what you
verse.
just said. It's related to my question earlier, that Allah is so
I
far
have not
removed.
finished. I don't think you guys can allow me to speak, because you keep interrupting me whatever I'm trying to speak.
You were interrupting
Nah,
us.
bro, come
Marshall,
on,
you've
no,
interrupted
but
everybody
you
16
don't,
times.
you don't,
You got to
you
be
don't, you
quiet
don't,
when the response is
you
coming.
don't allow
That's the
me,
problem.
you don't allow me to finish
Okay,
my
Marshall.
Responding
point.
over the top of us,
You guys,
we're
I'll
going to
allow you.
respond over the
nah,
top of
man.
you. So you got to be
Please
Allow
quiet.
him to respond.
have some manners, man. Let me finish.
I'll allow you to respond after my
You need to
paraphrase.
have
Nah,
some
I
manners
haven't,
and
I
wipe
have,
your
I
mouth
haven't
from
said,
the
I haven't,
saliva. Now you're emotional. Let somebody
haven't,
else finish. You've talked a lot. Be
I haven't
quiet so
said
they can
anything, bro.
respond to what you
I
stated.
haven't said anything. Let me finish, and then you can comment. All right? Okay. Stay quiet, please. Let me finish, and then you can speak.
Make sure you be quiet when the rebuttal comes and hurry up and speak. You're just talking
Oh,
about speaking. Speak.
okay, boss. Okay, boss. Okay, boss. What I'm saying, the verse which you read actually works for me, because it says God is one, and He begets not, nor is He begotten, and there is nothing like unto Him. This is actually goes against what you believe, because you believe in Jesus, who is the begotten Son of God. So the verse, if you believe that Jesus Christ is the only begotten Son of God, then this is not what actually Jesus actually taught, because Jesus said, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one." So Jesus never said, "Okay, you're laughing." I don't think you're actually willing to have a
Go
good
ahead,
discussion.
Marshall. Finish up, man. You
Nah,
finish
bro.
up. You
You
on
gotta
stage.
learn. You before you debate, you gotta learn
And
some
I'm not a
manners, man.
Christian, by the way, but Brother General is. But go ahead, finish up.
Nah, before you engage into a debate, you gotta learn some manners, and then you can have, a good
Well, you've already
discussion.
violated those codes, so I don't
Nah,
think you
bro.
can speak with anybody else's mannerisms. You
Nah,
came
bro.
in.
Maybe you can. I'm gonna stay. I'm gonna simply stay quiet, because you're not actually someone who can.
Marshall,
You're
can
not
I
really
can I just
qualified with
paraphrase what you're
scripture,
saying,
but
and
let
then
General
hopefully you
speak.
can answer that?
I'm not gonna debate, guys.
Okay, then mute. Go ahead, General.
Did he leave or did he drop? He left? Okay.
He'll be back.
Well, okay, so this is what I was wanting to get at. Oh, okay, you're back, Marshall. Could you hear me?
Yeah, but I don't want to speak, bro. Just carry on.
So I'm going to paraphrase what he was saying, and it's sort of based on my earlier question. How does Allah communicate or interact with the creation
Okay.
when, according to Surah 112, let me finish. Mute yourself and allow me to finish. To Surah 112, Allah is the absolute. No, he's dropped off again. I'll wait for him to come back. Nah, I think he's having internet connections.
He'll be back in there. He could probably hear. The issue with that is, if you look at the universe as it exists, and scientifically, everything begets. So if his nature doesn't beget, he's got a problem with the universe the way it's made. That's it.
Yeah. Because by definition, the universe has to be literally birthed from this deity. because the whole the whole notion of creating something, it's not that God has sex or something and produces the universe. No, but the universe, ancient Christian theology stems from the logos, rational logic, and so on, mind of that created everything. And so there's this one of the early church fathers, Tatian, kind of like a torchlight, that if you're going to light other torches with a singular torchlight, the fire seems to blend. Well, obviously in science we know the heat and the fuel and so on, but looking at it metaphysically, the fire seems to share in its essence, and yet the initial torch never loses its, so to speak. So there's like a copying of the flame across the board. And so so hence this language of imaging God as the images of him, because we're birthed from him, so to speak.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, Marshall, can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can
Since
hear
you're
you.
back?
Let's let Marshall speak, because you were interrupting him quite a bit. It's
No,
it's the only Muslim in
bro, I
here.
haven't finished my question.
Wait, hold on.
Bro.
Hold on. Can we just give him the respect, because he's the only Muslim here, okay?
I haven't even finished my question to Marshall. How is he?
I'm not gonna
Let-
debate. I'm not gonna
let-
argue with you. I'm not gonna argue with you guys. Just you can carry on speaking. I'm just gonna listen here.
You could speak. You just can't interrupt.
Okay, so my question to Marshall was this.
But I cannot have a rational.
This is my question to
I cannot
Marshall.
have
If
general-
Allah
no,
is
I'm
so
not gonna
far
answer your
removed from the
question.
creation,
I'm not
if
here to
Allah is so
argue
far
with you,
removed from the
okay?
creation, how does he
I
ever
argue with you.
interact with the creation?
I'm not here to argue
Because whenever
with
he
you.
does interact, it's always
Marshall, you
with
said that.
creatures.
Nah, you were not able to answer my question, and you're now asking me a different question. How is that fair?
Are you going?
It's
Are
the
you going to
same
state
question.
your?
You can, guys, just carry on discussion. I cannot have a decent, rational discussion with you, honestly. Seems
We got to be
impossible.
rational first. So stop interrupting.
Nah,
General. Let him finish.
you're actually
speak.
you're actually
You
immoral.
done
You
cut
gotta
him
learn
off
some
3
manners.
times.
You gotta learn some manners, bro.
You don't
Can I
have
finish my
any.
question, please?
You haven't
Nah, bro.
Guys, leave Marshall.
I may help you with that. I can learn you. I can teach you some manners. No problem with that.
How can you teach me manners? You don't even know your Quran.
Come on, bro. I can educate you on
Marshall.
the Quran. I can give you a little bit of
Marshall.
education on the Quran.
The room is moderated. No fighting, please.
Maybe
wanna
when
address
we're
this
hold on, Zulu. Maybe when we finish, I can help you understand the Quran because you're actually ignorant on the Quran and you
Hilarious.
can't.
I didn't finish my question.
But he
Also-
doesn't want to answer your question, General.
No, but I didn't. I had the right to ask him a question.
And
Also-
I said I'm not gonna argue with you. I'm not here to argue with you.
If you don't answer the question, that's fine, as long as the question is asked. Does Allah interact with the creation if, according to Surah 112, he is the absolute and he's just so far removed from creation? No matter who you are, whether you're an angel or a human, for you to understand what he says, how is that possible? Between the infinite, which in this case is Allah, and the mere creature. You can't say the angel Gabriel, because and Gabriel has to be on par with Allah. Gabriel is a creature mediated between Allah and the creation when Allah wants to communicate something to the creation. Go ahead, if you want.
I'm gonna say it again. I'm not gonna argue with you because whatever answer I give you, you're not gonna accept it. So I'm just gonna stay quiet.
I've asked that question. I've asked that question to many Muslims, and they run away from it.
I have already.
And here's evidence that here's another Muslim running away from that question.
Nah. Come on, you're lying now. I don't want to answer your question because I know you're not gonna accept it.
I'm a pretty rational human being. I'm happy to hear your response to that question.
No, and I think you're not rational because you're actually doubting whatever I say. So that's not a rationality. I mean, I think you're actually a reasonable
I
person.
think you're
Go
tailing
ahead.
and running. That's
Try
what I
your
think
best.
you're doing.
Go ahead.
Hey guys, leave Marshall alone, please. Okay.
Nah, Zulu, it's fine. Yeah, those kind of liars, they need to be exposed, honestly.
General's being nice and he's being very polite and asking him this question. And Marshall doesn't seem to want to answer the question. If you don't want to answer the
No,
question,
I have said to him, bro.
but
I
why
have
why
said
would you
to him
accuse him of being?
because they try to twist what I say.
What did I twist? You were the one strawmanning my argument
Hold
when
on,
I
No,
said
well,
hold
whatever,
it's the
whatever
logos
answer,
incarnate.
whatever,
Stop!
Zulu, whatever answer I gave
Stop!
him, he's not gonna
Stop!
take it.
Stop!
Yo,
Final warning. Do you want to say something, preaching place? Actually, you've been waiting for a while.
no, I was just going to make a suggestion that if there's a different topic that we can move on to, because it's just become a stalemate here. Question is being asked. One person, Marshall, doesn't want to answer the question for whatever reason, so just move on in it. Really, he doesn't want to answer the question.
I think so.
Yeah. And I don't know what, this is my first time in this chat. I don't know what rules have been set at the beginning. But Asu, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correct, and General, they never made no personal character assassination. You know, I think we need to keep those things out of our responses, like, and keep it to just the points that's being made. Someone can say that's not rational, that's okay. But when you start to say, you're lying, you're this, then it goes away from a discussion on dealing with analyzing what we believe, what each other believe, to now our hearts. And it don't matter what religion you're from, but I've never seen anyone who can judge a man's who can know what's exactly what a man's thinking is. And that's when it just gets into being personal, and that's when emotions just flare up. And I've listened since I've come in, and so I don't know if that's a rule that's already been echoed at the beginning, that we shouldn't judge one of another's motives. We can judge what each other's beliefs till the cows come home. That's fine. That's our rights to do, and I'm sure that's what this group is about, just debating, discussing, and what have you. But you know, those kind of statements, you're a liar, you're this, you're that, whatever. It's so it's just kind of, that's my suggestion. Obviously, this is my first time here, so I'm sure Zulu, you're the moderator, so you can decide.
I'm actually gonna make some more moderators on here. That's a good idea.
Zulu, please, can I respond to that question, please?
Sure. No one over talk.
Okay,
Marshall,
thank you.
please.
Thank you so much. What I was saying to you, bro, I think you're new here, but if you have been here before, those people, whatever answer you gave to them, they will not take it, but they will twist what you're saying. So whatever answer I gave to them about the Quran or Islam, they will not take it, but they will just make fun of it. And this is something bad. This is immoral. I mean, if I believe in something, you gotta respect it. I mean, you should not make fun of it. Take it or leave it. People, when I answer their questions about the Quran or about Islam in general, they don't take it, but they try to twist what I say. And when I talk about their so-called God, Jesus Christ, then they get emotional and they will be like, "No, you're actually not understanding the Bible. Come on, this is not fair."
Marshall.
No, wait, can I respond, General? Can I respond to that?
Okay, go ahead.
Quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
But then my question to you would be, then why do you keep coming in this chat if you feel that way towards those two individuals particularly? If that is what's going on, then you left twice, then just leave. That's your choice to come back.
No. I think you're new
let me
here.
finish,
I have
Marshall.
been here.
Marshall,
Marshall.
Marshall.
I have been
Marshall,
here.
I didn't finish, Marshall.
But you keep accusing me of some
Marshall, he's not
bullshit.
finished. Marshall, if you let him finish, you can speak next.
So
Guys, no swearing
now.
as well.
Like,
one of the rules, no swearing, please.
It doesn't matter, Zulu. It's a minor point anyway.
Okay, let me correct you, boy. Let me correct you because you're talking nonsense. You just came here. You're just a new member.
Marshall? It's okay. We're not doing
Okay,
this here. It's
I'm
my
not hating.
channel.
I'm answering his question. He just
No, but you
came
don't need to
here
call him
and he,
boy and all that. Come on, man. You don't
all
need to
right,
be
but
like
please
that.
let me stop. I'm just answering what he said. Okay, he said if I'm so please next time
Can I just
don't
can I ask the
accuse
room?
don't,
Now
don't
let
Okay.
Marshall
accuse me of
complete
something
what
which
he
you're
says.
not sure of. Anyways, guys,
Um,
I'm just gonna stay quiet because you guys are not actually
Let's
thinking.
change the
You can have
subject,
it.
guys. Let's not get into
I
argumentation.
guess I'll
Let's not
ask.
get into argument.
I guess I'll ask the room that's about their thoughts on the question I asked Marshall. What do you think about that question? What do you think it's a legitimate question, or do you think there's something faulty in the question?
Remind us of the
Who
question
wants to
again,
respond to
please.
that?
Yeah, what was the question again?
So the question was, according to Islamic theology, Allah committing shirk, like the Christian Trinity, or in this case Jesus and so on, committing shirk if you associate anything to Allah. So far removed from creation, the absolute, that's it. In fact, he doesn't encompass the laws of logic. That's how far removed he is. So therefore, whatever he is, like whatever he thinks and so on, how does he communicate those thoughts to the creature he is so far removed? Yeah, or where's the bridge for
They
that
pray, innit?
transmission
They pray.
of his thought? Because if the Muslim says, "Oh, the angel Gabriel passed Allah's wisdom to Muhammad," in this case with respect to the Quran, then the angel Gabriel, being a creature, has to be playing field on the same level as Allah, and obviously that's impossible because now you're committing shirk. So how does Allah transmit his thoughts? He's so far removed from creation. That was my question.
I think he's gone now.
I don't think he understood the questions. Maybe he thought it was just too complex to answer, and he to hide that fact, he just accused you of being whatever.
Well,
That's
Beckle,
what
do
it
you know
sounds like to
where I
me.
was going with that question? Because this is what I was going to then respond with. So he would have said something about, well, Cap told me only Allah can answer that question, which in my opinion is a cop out. But question to say the Christian God, well, guess what? You and I both believe that God, like Yahweh, encompasses the same position, and that is he is also so far removed from creation. God do? He himself has to condescend down and empty himself and quote unquote incarnate in order for us to understand what he's saying and doing. And the ultimate example of that is in Jesus. So notice then that text, no matter whether he agrees with it or not, Allah has to at some point incarnate into the creation to be able to get what he's saying, in order for then the angel to then tread. That ultimately that's what I'm driving at.
That sounds kind of weird to me, though. You're saying that God, in order for him to communicate something to the angels, that he would still have to anthropomorphize something?
Well, who's
For
the
the
mediator
angel
between?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So because the angel, as much as a creature as you and me, yes, the angel is a different class of creature, but it's a creation nonetheless. And no one knows the mind of God except God. And so to understand what God is thinking, or to translate what God is thinking, means that the angel has to have the mind of God, which, what does that mean? God. And that's impossible because it's a creature. So the only way that can happen is if God decides to limit himself down to the angel's level or to our level for us to understand what he's saying. Isn't that the incarnation? That's exactly the incarnation. That's exactly Philippians 2, the kenosis of Christ. Islam has no explanation for that in regards to Allah and his revelation.
I'm still a little confused though.
I don't know.
I mean, I don't see a problem with God being able to communicate something to an angel without him having to again, without any form of anthropomorphization. I mean, he could. I think he could just. Some Christians assert that there's a heavenly language that angels speak. So if that's the case, obviously,
okay. I'll give it's a simple.
God,
I'll give you a simple
I don't
analogy.
believe that's the case. But go ahead.
I'll give you a simple analogy. A very, very, very small child that's just about to learn the alphabet, compared to, say, a 60-year-old physics professor who is so far removed from the child's thinking to differential calculus. Now, let's just say that the professor wants to communicate to the child, but system of minds, the child can't come up to the professor's level and then go, oh, now I know what you're talking about. No, the professor has to literally limit himself down to the child's level, him to communicate to the child. I mean, God has to do that in some way, ontologically as well. He has to condescend himself, and hence, who's the mediator that does that? Well, that's the second person of the Trinity.
I get what you're saying, but I feel like Angel Gabriel is seen as that messenger person.
Yes, the angel is a finite being, right?
So
and
no,
God is eternal.
Listen, obviously, I'm not Muslim, but I'm saying from what I know, according to Islam, the Angel Gabriel's job is to relay Allah's message. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, in according to Islamic tradition, God doesn't reveal himself to people. He would reveal himself via an angel.
Okay, I'll put it this way.
No,
was the Quran for eternity written in Arabic? Like before it was sent down, was it written in the language of Arabic?
I can't really answer that. Can I?
Well, no. The answer is no, because in Islamic theology you have the pen, the eternal tablet that Allah writes down everything in, including the Quran, and it's in a language that is like the God language, whatever that language is. We don't know. Now, how does that language translate down to the creature level? Gabriel. There's no way an angel, a creature, could understand that eternal language.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, as in he would, and maybe, but other messengers of God have received a revelation via an angel. Does that make sense?
My point is, the angel would have to be able to get what Allah is saying or communicating, because Allah is eternal, and the angel's not.
Why though?
I don't know if I agree
because
with that,
the angel is a mere creature.
Yeah, but if the creatures, this is not my personal opinion, but I do understand if God has a specific if he has a specific angel for a specific job, then I would understand that, and he would send the angel to communicate it because the glory of God would be too much for a man's eyes. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I would kind of understand.
Oh, okay.
You
Uh,
know what
maybe
I'm saying?
I'm always trying to find new analogies to make. Maybe this analogy will really help. Kush and so Vekkel, I know you believe in the Trinity. Kush, do you believe in the Trinity?
No.
Okay. Then I think I'll ask this to Vekkel then. Okay, Vekkel speaks to the Son in eternity before the creation. Obviously, in the Trinity, the Son and the Father are equal ontologically, right? You'd agree with that?
Yeah, I'm on a bus, so there's a lot of noise here. So go ahead. Yeah, I agree.
But you agree with that? Okay. Now, when the Father communicates to the Son, have to distill down anything for the Son.
No.
Exactly. But when the Father has to, in this case, communicate to like an angel or any creature, to do.
Yeah, he has
Will the Father
some way so that they
exactly? He has to condescend in some way. He won't speak to the angel the same way he would communicate to the Son. So that's my point. Allah, if Allah is going to, because in Islamic theology, you don't have a Trinity, you just have Allah alone.
Yeah, but I hear what you're saying.
Allah, yeah, how does Allah talk to the angel?
I would say he speaks in heaven language. I'm not. But I know what you're trying to say. But for example, yeah, like I understand what you're saying about Jesus, but let's just take Jesus out. I know it's hard to take Jesus out of Christianity. I know that's dumb, but if you look at people before Jesus or Mary, Gabriel appears to Mary. Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't feel like that makes.
Yeah, but notice the angel and Mary they're both creatures.
Yeah, but he did send an angel to tell Mary that she would have the Son of God. So I'm saying in the same way, I don't feel like you're attaching or attributing or doing what a Muslim would consider shirk by him sending an angel. The angel is an agent of
I don't no. I don't have a problem with an angel being sent. There's nothing. There's the wall that's hit is the connection or the communication between God and the angel. So how does that work in Islamic theology? In Christian theology, there's no problem because we believe that God limits himself when he speaks to a creature. He doesn't have to limit himself within the Trinity.
So he's asking
Islam, in Islam, it's impossible for Allah to limit himself because it says so. God does not birth.
I wouldn't call it limited though. Okay.
Right. What the thing is, what the
I would
thing
say
is,
your limit, God.
Yeah.
Right. What the thing is to communicate in Islam is this though. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears, he swears by the creation. When the creation swears, they swear by Allah. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends someone to you, he sends someone of the same nature as you. So if I can't remember the verse, but if he's talking to a man, he's going to send a man to communicate to men. So he sent Angel Gabriel in the form of a man, according to Quranic scripture. That's how he would communicate with men. And I don't see the disconnect there. The problem is when you set up a contingent being, which is a being outside the realm of nature or actual provability, then you have an issue with the way that the universe is created, because everything in the universe begets from the Higginbotham particle on down. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not beget, there's an issue with that story because everything in the universe begets. How can man know you from your huwa, which it says in Al-Ikhlas that supposedly man knows you from his huwa, his oneness, if he's not of your same nature? How would you ever know of him? And obviously when human beings first existed, no one said Allah before that, and Kagan before that.
Now, I think I think the problem of this actually comes from the fact that people are trying to create a God that is the most high. And in order to have a God that is the most high, you have to basically, in essence, belittle yourself. And I think what's happened with Islam is, in order to put this God as high as possible, they've then said he's completely separate from this realm, this world in which we live in, everything that we see. And that's where the problem comes in. So what you're actually dealing with is not so much the nature of God. What you're dealing with is what people have decided to say is the nature of God.
Which is contrary to science and a few other things. So there's an issue with that particular nature. Even if you turn to Yahweh, he only begets Jesus. So we may have an issue with his nature. You see what I'm saying? He's outside of his creation to the point where he's not connected with it. And he shows no remnants of scientific method to be inside or to have any effect on the nature that actually takes place in the known universe.
Yeah, because that actually breeds another problem, which is if Allah is separate, completely separate from his creation to the point where it's difficult to communicate, you then have to ask the question, what was the point of having a creation that you can't even communicate with properly?
Right, and he has no wants, so why would he create it?
Let's say what you're forgetting is we're made in his image. So I gotta correct you about how he's not connected with us; he's only connected with Jesus.
No, hilarious. We're talking about Islam. In Islam, being made in the image of Allah is shirk. That's blasphemous. So Marshall doesn't believe in Imago Dei, image of God. So what Ido and Ozer are saying is basically on point. Now, basically, we're pointing out logical ramifications of the Islamic monotheism. That's what we're doing.
Oh, so Muslims don't believe in the image of God as well?
No.
Nope. They say you have
to throw that down.
But they'll argue that
that makes it even worse for their case then.
Well, it makes it difficult for them to come into it makes it difficult for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to exist at all. Because you all know what a contingent being is, right? But
yeah,
a contingent
you can explain it. Yeah.
Contingent being is basically a character made up, or let's not even say made up, say it exists. Let's say Allah exists. It's a being that would be outside the realm of any known nature, and you assess powers to it when things happen in nature. So if this is supposedly the case, even after we've known why things happen and we can explain them, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts to push of the realm of existence, because he's a contingent being. He doesn't really exist. But you assess everything that happens in life to this being.
But you see, if you're Muslim, that's not going to be a problem for you. And I'll tell you why. The miracle is the Quran. So all of what you're saying in the eyes of a Muslim means nothing.
Yeah,
because that is a miracle.
But there is actually a problem with the Quran itself, because at the moment you've got the Quran in Arabic, but it wasn't originally written in Arabic. And
Syro-Aramaic.
Sorry?
It's originally written in Syro-Aramaic.
Yes. But they had to convert it to Arabic as we now have it.
Yeah.
And then you then had the Uthman scenario of burning what he termed to be basically incorrect recitations, and in essence created a new Quran. So the Quran itself, as a miracle, as a piece of miracle literature as it's put forward by Islam is actually incorrect.
Right, and then you have to look at the scriptures that they took off the cow hides and embarked on the trees, and then you got to match those up, and then you got to look at the fact that there was an order to destroy some of those with what they put together. So it has there's a lot of things that have to be delved into concerning it.
Yeah, no, you're right. There's a ridiculous amount of things that needs to be dealt with regards to whether it's actually a miraculous book or not. And I think the problem that some Muslims have is because they have accepted Islam for whatever reason, they take things at face value and they don't actually read up on the history of how the Quran came to be. They just read the Quran and the Hadiths, and they allow the Hadiths to verify the Quran, and vice versa. So you get this circular argument going, as opposed to actually saying what was happening at the time, who did this, who did that, how did this thing become the way it is. Because even now you've got like the two main factions of Sunni and Shiite, where they have fundamental disagreements with themselves.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's just I just think that's just religion in general. Well, especially Abrahamic religion in general, I feel like. I don't feel like that's just an Islamic thing. I feel like a lot of people are in their spiritual system and they haven't researched
The
or
book.
read
Right.
how the book came into being, how it came into play. They don't care whether it's in the right language or not. They don't care whether there's mistakes. Because they already believe. Before they've opened the book, they already believed.
Yeah.
Does
I
that
mean,
make
but
sense?
I will make a distinction, and I may be wrong, and if I'm wrong, somebody please correct me, so I don't make the same mistake in the future. The fundamental problem with the Abrahamic faith and everybody else is that everybody else doesn't tell you that this is the only way and it's the best way, and if you don't follow it, then you're gonna receive some serious punishment. But the Abrahamic faiths do. And like I said, if I'm wrong, somebody please correct me. But I have noticed that the other faiths don't do this. They don't say that you have to follow me. This is the best way. And if you don't follow me, then there's going to be some serious repercussions.
Right. In most cases, you're definitely right. And that's an issue. If you if you believe wholeheartedly that God is God, or and my God said do this, and we got to, yeah, absolutely.
For me, obviously there's God with a big G, and then there's God with a small G. And I feel like sometimes it feels like the Abrahamic religion of God is a bit, sometimes it's like a God with a small G. He does or has attributes of jealousy and things like that. And I just feel like the supreme deity who made everything, I don't think he would need to have such emotions.
Yeah, slight correction. Sorry, slight correction. It doesn't have attributes in the Bible. It categorically states that it's a jealous God. So it wasn't even like
yeah, definitely. Definitely, yeah. No, there's no doubt about it. Yeah, you can't say there is. He's there in writing. It's set in stone.
Yahweh commits most of the killings in the Bible. So from Sodom and Gomorrah, from on down, he commits most of the killings in the Bible, more than the devil does, in fact. How do you what would you guys say to that, brother General, brother Seth, because you're Hebrew, and brother Hilaris?
Who's a Hebrew?
It depends. It depends because with God, right, He is ultimate, decider for morality. So to say he can't do what he willed with his creation is problematic because killing within itself isn't wrong; it's murder. And whenever God is, in quote, killing, it's not necessarily a sin because he created. He has the choice to be done away with us if he wants to. And I just see a human in their finite mind being emotional and saying, you just killed this person, like, so complex. And God is processing is so complex that one thing leads to another thing, that leads to another thing, that leads to another thing. So us complaining in this lifetime of the future is pointless, to be honest, to try and get into the brain of God. That's why in the Bible it simply says, my ways are not your ways, and my thoughts are not your thoughts. So to try and comprehend his majesty would lead you to destruction because it would be impossible.
But that to me is the problem, though.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like, God, that's the problem. God, like, I'm not gonna lie. For me, obviously, I'm not trying to put myself in a God image, but
your mother and your father made you, but if your mother or your
it's
father
like to say my
you,
child, I wouldn't kill my child, though. Do you know what I mean? I've created two children, but I feel like
I think
it's almost pointless. You've created something just to destroy it.
I think the problem. I think the problem is there's. I keep hearing this thing about there's a set morality and morality comes from God. Now the problem with having a set morality and then saying it only applies to you guys and it doesn't apply to me makes it pointless. Because you can't create a set of rules and say follow these rules and then you yourself break these rules. It belittles the point of actually having the rules to begin with.
Okay, so you're saying that it's unjust or immoral for God to kill his creation. So can I ask you a question? What's your foundation or what's your determination to see what's moral or not?
My ethic code is ma'at. I'm a heck in the chair. I'm a praiser of the divine, or Shem Suharu. So that's how I move.
I mean, for me, like I said, if you give me a moral code and you say that this moral code is impregnated into my genes, because I've heard this argument of where Christians will say the reason you know right from wrong is because of God. So if this moral code is impregnated into my gene, then how can the person doing the impregnation of the moral code not actually use the moral code? It's a case of you do what I tell you because I said so. And it belittles the point of having a rule to begin with. Because as long as I do it, it's fine, but you can't do it because I said so.
Okay, so let me give you the so let's actually look at so let's look at the actual context, because you're trying to make God look like a mass murderer, but you mentioned the flood, Sodom and Gomorrah. So let's actually look at the context and look at why he did the things he did. Because when you simply say killing, God kills people, you're not really painting a picture there. You're generalizing something.
God
So let's
kills
look
the
at the
whole
context.
earth in self-defense, guys. Self-defense.
So preaching place wants to comment. Want to be named by all.
Self-defense.
Yeah, so in answering that question about or the point I should say that Ido just made, I would give a simple answer in terms of take parents. Okay, what he just said wouldn't make any sense if I don't know if Ido has children. I don't know if I have 3 kids. Now there's certain rules that I set for my children that don't apply to me for the sake of my position in the home. Now everything I say to my children is for their benefit, and so it's not in every single absolute case that the rules that I set down for my children, I've got to abide by them. And but at the same time, when it comes to morality, though, there are rules that the same thing I teach my children, I'm trying to keep as well. You know, for example, my children go to bed at 7:30 by virtue of the fact of how old they are. If my child turns around to me and says, well, why do you need to go to bed at later time? I say to him, because you're my child, you need that sleep. I know more than you. At the age that you are, you need that sleep. And they go, okay, and that makes sense. There's a reason behind every rule that I give them. I try to explain to them that reason. So we're dealing with God and the God of the Bible that I believe. The rules that he has set down, the 10 Commandments, they're for our benefit, our peace between ourselves, how that we got to live at peace with each other. They set down a standard. Jesus in Matthew 22 quotes when he was asked, what's the greatest commandment in the law? He didn't quote a specific commandment. He says, love God with all thy heart, with all thy strength, and with thy soul, and love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two hang all the law and the prophets. So in principle, he said, look, the law really, the 10 Commandments, based upon love. And so I'm saying that if God transcends this moral code, as if to say he's not obliged by it, it's kind of unfair. I think I've answered the question, the scenario about the father-children relationship.
I hear you, but it's just loving is love. You love with all your heart. If you love with all your heart, you're not going to try and murder. That's my point. If somebody, this is the other thing as well. Like, it is very confusing, because Jesus on the one hand is saying turn the other cheek, but then on the other hand, if God feels like somebody's wrong to him, and I don't know how us as people can do something wrong to him, because everything that we do would have to be ordained by him anyway. So if I go,
Brother Kush, let me get
what you're saying about the parent thing, I understand, but the reality is that ain't had the case. If I tell my child, don't smoke, don't smoke, don't smoke, but every day he sees me lighting up a cigarette in the morning, guess what? 9 times out of 10, that kid's gonna end up smoking, no matter what you tell him. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, as much as people say, oh, yeah, you give your kids a set of rules, but if you told your kid, listen, don't go out and have sex, but he knows you've got a kid over here, a kid over there, a child over here, your speak louder than your words, isn't it? So for me, if you are now, as a follower of it, you'd look into this and you'd say, well, God doesn't like when people do things wrong against him. So now if somebody does something wrong against me, my retaliation now is justified because that person wronged me. So under this here, I can retaliate to a mad degree instead of sitting back and thinking, well, what's the best scenario for everybody in this situation? Do you get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. Let me answer that quickly, yeah.
Because I want you to answer this with it.
Okay, go on.
Because if we go there, Abraham as a son to his father, and the fact that his father was put to the stake, removed by an angel, and ended up going against his father's wishes. Now, this is the father of the faith. So how do we see that in the Abraham story?
So repeat that scenario again, please.
Right. Abraham's story, and I'm just going off of memory. Abraham disobeyed his father, felt what his father was doing was incorrect, and ended up being put to the stake, tried to burn him alive. The angel supposedly saved him, if I'm remembering the story correctly. And he ends up doing the opposite of his father, but yet he's praised and revealed. So how do we truly justify that if the father of the faith, which is Abraham, did the opposite concerning his parents?
I'm not familiar with that story in the book of Genesis. Are you sure that's in Genesis? Because are you talking about when he had to go and sacrifice his son, or a different account? Because I've read Genesis.
This is Abraham's beef with his own father.
Yeah, that's not in Genesis. He didn't have no beef with his father in Genesis.
His father was an idol worshiper.
Yeah, but the account, because I'm not saying that I've got perfect knowledge, but I've studied pretty well the book of Genesis. Unless you can quote the chapter, that story, I can't really answer that question to me, because I'm not familiar with that being in the Bible, to be honest, to be fair.
Are you referring to the account of Joshua, Uzzah, in regards to Abraham being an idolater?
Abraham, right. Abraham's father was an idolater. I may be remembering the Quranic story, but
it sounds.
Yeah, but that would be an apocryphal statement based on a whole legend that was derived from a mistranslation of the word Ur. If you're familiar with that.
Let me pull it up, brother General. Let me see. Marshall, see if you could pull up that Abrahamic story, fam.
Yeah, because that sounds like it, because that's not in Genesis. That's
because in the
right, okay.
Targums, so in Second Temple, and especially when so what happened was when in the 2nd century AD there was a Jew into Aramaic of the entire Old Testament, and he came across the word or, Ugaritic word which means fortified city. In Hebrew means fire, and Ugaritic being a dead language, and in this case Genesis being Hebrew, he literally thought fire of the Chaldeans, and then that developed an entire legend about the fire of the Chaldeans and how he would not bow down to the idols of Chaldee, and that story about his father and so on, and how Abraham was an idolater, but then he left it, and all that stuff.
That's not true.
Sorry?
So you're saying that story is not true, that account in the Bible is not true?
Well, that particular apocryphal story, the legend, was entirely based on one word mistranslation, which it then evolved into a legend, which.
So you're saying that story is not true.
And now here's another thing in regards to the Quran, because according to Islamic theology, the Quran is the eternal word of Allah. Allah was ignorant of the fact that this entire legend was based on the mistranslation of one word. So it's in the Quran, yes.
But to be fair, they would to be fair, I like to be fair, if he was Muslim back then, you would have been reading the Torah or the Bible probably in Hebrew. You wouldn't have been reading it in English, so there wouldn't be any mistranslation anyway.
No, I would, and guess what? I don't shy away from the fact that people like Jerome. So when the Latin Vulgate was made, they were ignorant of the fact that that's an Ugaritic word, and guess what? In the Vulgate, you have fire of the Chaldeans, and that is.
Right.
Okay, so what is the translation 40 from? What language into what language?
So Ugaritic is the parent language to Hebrew. Proto-Semitic scripts, like we're talking even before Moses.
The parent language for Hebrew is Canaanite, and they try to call it Paleolithic Hebrew, but Canaanite is also Medu, or the Medu Neter, and we find the Kalenjin tribe in Africa still speaking Medu Neter, and we see the Maasai tribe still speaking their language, the Ma'a language, which has a lot of Medu Neter in it.
Yeah, I'm giving a specific name, and Ugaritic, so Ugarit. And when we pick up cuneiform scripts, the Ugaritic language, now like the missing piece in the puzzle of in regards to ancient Paleo-Hebrew and all those studies that ancient Near Eastern scholars delve into.
Sahidic, perhaps?
I'm not sure. I don't know. All I'm doing is I'm labeling out the names of the languages that scholars have given them as of the late.
See, for me,
but it's interesting to note that word "or" Hebrew word, because in Hebrew it means fire.
Yeah. See, for me, this creates a problem, because I've actually made this point before. Is how can we believe in an all-knowing, all-powerful entity when the plan that's been laid out to give information to us is literally flawed from beginning to end? We don't have correct translations. We've got incorrect script, incomplete script. Everybody can put their spin on it. There's 101
sources.
Yeah, secondary sources. No real primary source. It's
It's a
No,
flawed plan.
I wouldn't say. No, sorry, I wouldn't say that because if it was for all cases and all times that Ur was mistranslated, you'd have a point. So, for example, the Septuagint, that the Jewish translators in the BC era, that word meant, and they didn't do that mistranslation. So basically,
Is that the only?
there were people, even leading up into a Hellenistic speaking culture, scholars knew what words meant what. Like if you're talking about dead language words, and Ur is one of them. Start getting like an isolated his own translation, and then that picks up speed. Kind of like that guy I mentioned. Then legends like this crop up, and then that's what happens.
Yeah, but it's still a problem because different parts of what we call the Bible today were put together at different periods by different people with their own agendas.
Oh man.
So when you get to things like New Testament, for example, because anybody who knows anything about language knows that there's a context to every single word within a language. And when you do translations, that context ideally should be translated, but often it's not. So if you look at the word for hell in New Testament, they're referencing Hades. They're saying Hades. Now, if you're a Greek, if you're a Roman, Hades has a certain connotation to it that the Hebrews themselves did not have, but they're using the word Hades. So you can see how easy it is for misunderstandings to come in. I mean, we've got things like.
But notice you just not what you just said that we should have. That is the context. So when a Hellenistic Jew is speaking of Sheol, Greek language, he would say Hades, but he's not meaning the Greek version of Hades or the Roman version, the classic Jewish context, because he can't say Sheol in Greek. He has to give the equivalent, which is what the Greek is saying.
Yeah, but when you compare Old Testament and New Testament, if you speak with a Jew, I don't know if Seth here is Christian or Jewish, but generally speaking, when you go through the Old Testament, nobody really cares about the afterlife. The afterlife is something that is barely mentioned. When you go into the New Testament, there's a flip case. And this is because there's a different agenda being put forward by the people writing these scripts. We don't even know who wrote what. We just assign names. Like the book of John wasn't written by John. We just said, yeah, we'll just say it's John. We'll just say this is Mark. We'll just say this is Luke. It's if you were being unbiased and being ridiculously honest and looking at it as a stranger, and you had all this wealth of evidence on how you've got mistranslations, books taken out, books added, things have been fabricated and then they've been taken out, and some things have been put back in. You have no choice but to say, I cannot trust what's written here because there's just too many question marks. It can't be taken at face value. And for a creator that is all-knowing, the most intelligent thing, creates everything, to come up with a methodology of giving information about himself to humanity, if this is the best method, it is seriously flawed, and it has to be. You have to question it because it is not put together by an intelligent mind.
Questions.
Can I jump in there and just touch on that point quickly about the method of how God chose to reveal? Go on, General.
I'll just quickly. I'll be very brief. I'll just quickly say I think it's the best method, and it's not the only method. We have a lot of books, so to speak. In this case, the Book of Nature as well. and hence that's the scientific method to encompass to use our brains, that are our God-given brains, to basically enjoy and understand exactly what's going on. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, that argument is often used, that the way in which God chose to reveal the scriptures, the Bible, it breeds a lot of skepticism. That makes no sense, man. Revealing to so many different people, so many different times of our Earth's history, in so many different continents. How on earth can it all agree? But that is the point. That is the very
Not that
point.
many continents. Not that many continents.
Kush. Sorry? I missed that, Kush.
Not that many continents, to be fair.
Yeah, but it's more than one. The point is, it wasn't revealed to one man. That's the point. It wasn't revealed to one person. It's revealed to many different authors over a span of over 1,000 years. It took before we got what we call the canon. The point I'm making is that that is the point why that if you was going to reveal truth and choose one individual, then that would still be used as an argument against God today. Well, how can we trust this one man? God chose a way that it had to be, if it's going to be something supernatural, he has to choose a method which takes complete faith and trust. Yes, there is evidence, can't fully prove, but there is evidence, archaeological evidence. There is the study of how the manuscripts were safeguarded and all these things. But even that, with all that great evidence that there is to support the legitimacy of the Bible historically, still at the same time, the way it was revealed, he's choosing a way in which one has to say, man, if this is going to be true, it has to harmonize with itself. Because if I'm going to say one thing to one person and then another thing to one person, things can change. That, and that's just logic. So if God is going to choose a method of revealing truth to mankind, he has to choose a way where it has to have a supernatural signature on it. If it doesn't have that supernatural signature, then that's going to be then used as an argument against him to this day. And so that is the test of its of its signature. This has to agree.
Just simply saying it's supernatural doesn't make it so.
No, I didn't say supernatural. No, I didn't say it is. What I'm saying is that I'm challenging, I'm getting you to think about that the way in which he, okay, by implication you're suggesting, and correct me if I'm wrong, by implication you're suggesting, well, why didn't he just give it?
That there's not much. I'm not to be like funny, but as like adults, yeah, there's not much logic to how it was put together.
No. Of course, it's not. Kush. Let me.
Truth, yeah. As much as it might be hard for me to understand, you just put it in one way.
You sound muffled, Kush. Kush, you sound muffled.
Let him respond, brother.
The truth is.
That's it.
The truth is just the truth. Do you understand what I'm saying? So
yeah,
for you would put it in a logical fashion.
No, but think about. Well, what I'm saying is this:
we know God knows us. He knows we are questionable people. He knows our natures. He knows we like to nitpick. He knows this. Just give clear evidence.
Kush, make sure you give him a chance to respond.
Kush, yeah,
chance to respond, and then you ask him another question, and you're speaking over him. Let him finish his statement, and then respond, please.
But I was going to say, by implication, and correct me if I'm wrong, that what you're suggesting is God should have revealed his truth to one individual, not span it out over a long period of time to so many different periods, because that would make more logic to your logic. Am I understanding you correctly?
No, not completely. What I'm saying is he should have revealed it to everyone, because what were people doing in South Africa whilst these books were being put together?
That's exactly what he just said, Edo.
No, but no, hold on. Let me fully explain myself.
Right.
Because people are living and dying.
Yes.
So I haven't heard the word of God, and I've passed on.
Right.
What happens to me?
Right.
Because all this thing is happening. I know you said continents, but strictly speaking, we're talking about the Middle East.
Right.
We're talking about a tiny spot. So what's happening around the world whilst thousands of years are going by and people are putting this thing together, deciding what should be taken out and what should be put in? What's going on with everybody else? What's happening in Australia? What's happening in Europe? What's happening in China?
Right.
What's happening to
Okay.
the people who are living and dying?
What you're saying is, at one point, at one period of time, God should reveal the truth to that one generation at one time, so everyone knows it at once.
In essence, yes.
Okay. So two things then. Let me tackle the second one. One of the points that you made first is that, oh, I can't remember. Sit for me. Okay, let me just tackle the first point. There was a time biblically that happened. Adam and Eve. When man was first created, God revealed his will to them, what he expected of them, gave them the freedom of choice, etc., etc. And it was revealed to them the truth. Boom, here you go. Now you've got it. Now then it was the responsibility, obviously, by these two parents to then continue sharing that. But you've got a situation called free will. Free will.
You know that begs the question, right?
Sorry?
That begs the question.
Say that again?
It begs the question.
Begs? I don't understand. What does that mean? Begs the question.
The logical fallacy where you assume the conclusion within the premises.
Basically what he's saying is that you're making a massive assumption and using that assumption to try and make a fact.
No, that's not an assumption. It's what I believe.
That's not what I'm saying.
Oh, go clarify, Seth, please.
Explain.
Someone's critical of you of this belief of the claims of Christianity. So to prove the claims of Christianity, you assume that Christianity is true, i.e., that Adam and Eve existed and they knew that God existed. But that would be begging the question, because you're assuming Christianity to be true to show that Christianity is true.
No, I don't assume it's true. I believe it's true. I'm not assuming it's true. I believe.
No, your premises assumes it's true. You can know it's true. That's all fine. But
right.
But what you're saying is an argument to provide evidence for your position is begging the question, formal logical fallacy, where you assume the conclusion in the premises.
Right, but assuming he's a believer, he has to answer thus as he is. So you have to allow him his
I can allow him to be illogical.
You gotta allow him to answer.
It's not illogical. It's
paradigm.
It's a formal logical fallacy. You're not being logical by definition.
No. It's we're not getting into the debate of what the laws of logic and what our interpretation of the laws of logic are. Edo asked a question which is based upon what our interpretation of this world is. You can only.
Your answer begs the question.
My answer begs the question.
I would say just let him answer the question.
You have to let him answer in the paradigm that he speaks of. And
nobody's stopping him. I'm just telling him that it's a logical fallacy.
Absolutely.
Right. So to ask why didn't God reveal the truth at one time to one generation, it's not an illogical fallacy to answer it from the Bible, because you're bringing God into the question. Because to then judge the answer by a question which is in of itself asking about God, well, where do I get a reference from? Well, my reference is from the Bible, so I have to answer it in that way, because God speaks for himself in the Bible. And the question is bringing God into question of why didn't he reveal it this way? Well, the Bible gives an answer as to how he revealed the truth. And there was a period in history in which he revealed this truth to two people called Adam and Eve. If you don't bring the Bible into that answer, you can't answer that question. You can't answer.
I'm not gonna stop you from making your point. But if you're gonna insist that what you're doing, if you're gonna defend the fact that you're begging the question, then I'm going to respond. That it's still begging the question whether or not you're doing it for Christianity or not. I know there is.
Yeah, I can't hear you though. That's what I'm saying.
All right. Well, then you're still begging the question.
We understand. Just progress.
Let him answer in his paradigm.
Right. So to answer that question, right? Why didn't just God? You have to assume then that at one period of time in our history, let's leave the Bible out. Let's leave the Bible and Adam and Eve anyway. Your question is assuming that there is a period in time where when God was going to reveal the truth, right? Then who was those people that you're wanting him to reveal that truth to? That would be the question. Do you see? Who was those people that you'd want to reveal it to? And if you revealed it to all of those people at once, then what would their responsibility be to everybody else who's gonna come after us? That people are gonna procreate. So that would be my question to you, Edo. Do you see? If you reveal, if there was no Adam and Eve, it doesn't matter. We don't have to bring Adam and Eve in the question, right? Or what the Bible's narrative of the history of this world. Whoever was around at whatever time you want to put this earth's history in, and you want to put God, say he's going to reveal his truth, those people, even if he did, they still would have the responsibility of sharing it to people anyway down the line and say, hey, we've had a revelation. This is the truth about whatever, X, Y, and Z. This is the truth. So we would still be having the debate anyway and saying, well, how do we know that they have received a true revelation from this divine being? Do you see? So even if he did it in the way that, even if he did, according to what you're saying, we'll still be asking the question to this day, generations later, but how do we know? What evidence do we have? We'll still be having the same debates anyhow.
No, actually, we will not. Because if everybody got the same message at the same time, it would act as a confirming factor for everyone.
Yeah, but when you say everyone...
Hold on. If the message I got is the same message my neighbor got, the message he got is the same message his mother got, the message his mother got is the same message her father got, and everybody has the same message.
Agreed.
Which is what there would be no confusion.
Yeah, but
in fact, when you go to a country,
I'll love preaching, let him answer.
And everyone speaks the same language. How do they speak the same language? Because it's been passed on from mother
agreed
to daughter, from father to son. But what we have here is a piece of information that's been given to one tiny group of people. And it's spread, if we're being honest, it has spread through bloodshed. That's how it's actually spread, through bloodshed and politics. It wasn't because people saw it and said, hey, this is the true way of life. It was the case of...
That's not true.
Well, how did Christianity spread in Africa? How did Christianity
spread? Catholicism or Christian or true Christianity?
I make no distinction, because by the time you start going to things like Catholic... Well,
sorry, Edo. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, but I mean, if you start making that distinction, it proves my point further about the method is faulty.
No, it doesn't. It shows that there were people who did it wrong and there's people who did it right. That's what it proves, because we have to be fair to the facts. There are people who claim that name Christian and who brutally murdered, and I'm agreeing with you on that point, but I'm just saying we can't put all of Christianity and Christians in that bracket, because the history is clear that you had the Portuguese, you had and even some who say they weren't Catholic who were Christian, like this country, right, proclaiming a Christian nation, went to India, Africa, and did some terrible things. And that's why I said, we have to make a distinction to be fair to those in history who stood up and then turned against those things. Many abolitionists who claimed the same God, right, said their Christian God, disagreed with that. So we have those clear historical examples where people disagreed with those abuses. Do you see what I'm saying?
I see it, but then it becomes subjective, because people are going by their own more personal moral compass and saying, what, this didn't say was there. No, hold on.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, you can say that, because one person is saying, what, morally, I don't agree with this. Another person is saying, morally, I think this is fine.
Right.
And they're going off and they're doing what they want to do. Right. So it's all subjective.
Chime in too when you finish, I don't go ahead.
Yeah, no, that was me. That was me done.
Well, we kind of strayed off. I wanted to go back to the main, one of the main points we began our discussion between ourselves was that why didn't God reveal, or he should have revealed his revelation to one people at one time? And I asked you the question, but at which time was that? At which period of this history would you have wanted God to reveal his truth at one time? If you don't want to put Adam and Eve in the picture as a genuine account of historical events, then in which historical time period of Earth's history would you want God to reveal it to one people at one time bearing in mind that people are going to procreate, people are going. Do you see what I mean? If you're going to concoct that scenario, then you have to give, well, here's a time period he should have just done it in, because you're not accepting, well, he did do that. You're not trusting that the group that he did reveal it to, you know, we can trust that group. But then you're saying, well, why can't he reveal it to another group? And then
because all the groups would have the same version.
Yeah, I understand. I'm agreeing. What I'm saying is that which period of history are we saying that scenario would have worked? That's my question.
I'll mute your mic because you're starting to echo.
Is it right?
Right. Wait. Can you repeat that again? Because there's a lot of echo.
Sorry. So I'm saying I'm agreeing with your premise that if you reveal it to one people, just like a language, or that people speak the same language as the example you used, because it's been passed down. So what I'm saying is that, but at which period of history do you think that God could have revealed it to this group of people? That's it. At which period of history would you think that scenario would have worked for your satisfaction?
Right. Okay. The way I would answer that is there is no one period. What I would expect would be continuous revelation, which is what we do not get. Because I find it strange that during the biblical times, there was continuous revelation going on, and then all of a sudden, he stopped. It's like, okay, I've said enough. I don't need to say anymore. I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna chill. I'll let you guys sort it out. And thousands of years are going by. And people are completely confused. And he's still saying, you know what? Yeah, the old message is good enough. I know that there are discrepancies. I know that there are mistranslations. I know that there are books missing, etc. I know there's confusion, but I think I've done a reasonable job. You should be able to pick up the rest. If you were being unbiased and if you're an outsider looking in and somebody presented that to you, you would reject it. If you were being honest, you would reject it.
Let me. I tell you, the thing is, God's get such a bad rap because of so much misunderstanding. When at the same time, if we're gonna say that there's evil and bad, what baffles me is the fact that if God just doesn't exist, because obviously I'm coming into this group, so I don't know what everyone's full worldview is in it. So obviously, you know, it would take time to really pick out and really understand. Well, for me, because I'm just coming in new here. So if I do say things, obviously there's going to be basic assumptions I'm making based on the little I'm hearing. So forgive me for that. It's not passing any kind of judgment. But, you know, God gets such a bad rap. And I always ask myself, well, what about the devil? If we're going to bring a supernatural being into question, then we have to honestly say, well, what about it's not God that is, you know, the responsible one for these evil things to happen. Right? Because
the Bible is just the God of the Bible you're talking about. God, everybody.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, people in this group have a different.
I understand that. I definitely understand that.
What God is, so you have to be specific and say the God of the Bible is getting a bad rap. Because we ain't talking about.
Yeah, I assume people knew that I'm talking about the God of the Bible.
In my opinion, we're not talking about God. In my opinion, we're not talking about God with a big G. We're talking about God with a little G right now.
Yeah, I understand, and I think people got that I'm talking about the God of the Bible, right? If they didn't, I'm a Seventh Adventist Christian. I believe in the Bible. So, because the Bible itself talks about the devil and evil and, you know, these things, talks about deception. Also, the Bible makes a claim itself about being inspired, and the inspiration of the Bible and the evidence is not just I'm inspired, believe me. All right. You've got Second Peter chapter 1, 19 and 20 says, we have a more sure word of prophecy, and you do well that you take heed as a light that shines in a dark place. Verse 21 says, for holy men of God spake as they were moved by the Holy Ghost. And verse 20, so I should have quoted 20 first, but it says, no prophecies of any private interpretation. you've got Matthew 24, verse 3, where the disciples came to Jesus and asked him, well, what's going to be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? And then you've got Isaiah 46, 9 and 10, where it tells you there why that verse, why God is different from any other gods, is because he says, I can declare the end from the beginning. So the Bible speaks and says, look, or makes it claim and says the reason why it's inspired is because God has prophecies in there. It can foretell the future. And that's an area in which, you know, like you have a saying, I don't know if you've heard of this saying, where it says forewarned is forearmed. And so the revelation and the consistency also is about, when you look at the prophecy, you study what the Bible prophesies and see how have they come to pass. That's another reason for the claim of its divinity and its accuracy. And so when we see certain things happening and certain bad things happening, you say to yourself, well, look, the word of God prophesied these things should be happening, so I can trust in it. And then the last point about, the errors and whatnot, I kind of roll back and say to myself, all right, if there is a God, now the way I came to God wasn't just, I'm not going to say just, it wasn't say through facts and whatnot. I'm not saying that's wrong. And through study and research, we all have our own journeys, and we're on our journey, and people have made their conclusions already. But me personally, it's through a personal experience, and that personal experience so changed my life that it was like, hold up, this thing is real. This thing is real. And so I came into contact with a personal being that loved me so much despite who I was. And then after came, all right, let me see if this revelation is in harmony with my experience, because I had an experience first before, like study. Because some Christians, they study the word, and they see that there's evidence in the word, and they come that way. And there's many different ways people have experiences. I'm sure we're all familiar with certain people's testimonies. But what I'm saying is that how I came, it kind of helped me to kind of say, right, all right, there's my starting point. He done something for me, so I know he's real. I know Jesus is real because he's done something that, boy, no human being could have done. It was a miracle, supernatural. So then then that made me go and study the word. And what I'm saying is that in the Bible, sorry, what did you say, Asu?
I said, we got you,
Okay.
family. You going in. You going.
Can you finish?
Pass the mic, fam. Go ahead. Yes.
Okay, cool. Now that's all good, man. That's in love.
I think it sounded like you were about finished, though, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, right.
Not really, but if my point was made, that's all right, man. That's cool.
Hold up. Yeah.
My reply to that is you still haven't dealt with the question, because number one, you cited the devil, and I'll say, okay, you cite the devil. What bad thing has the devil actually done versus the things that God has done? That's number one. Number two, you cited prophecy. What prophecy has the Bible made that is out with itself that we can see that isn't a generic prophecy, like I believe tomorrow at some point someone's going to die, or there's going to be a war in the next 10 years? And
yeah,
the last
there's
point
loads.
is,
There's loads.
yeah, hold on. And the last point is, when you cite personal experiences are highly subjective, and people
100%.
have personal experiences, and people cite personal experiences for other religions that are
100%.
not part of the Abrahamic faith.
100%. I'm not citing my personal experience as that because I have an personal experience. That's, like I said before, I can't prove, but I can't deny what I've gone through. Of course, people cite personal experience. People cite personal experience going to a football match, and their personal experience compared to somebody else at the same football match can be completely different. You go to a cinema, same event, and someone's like, man, that film was rubbish. Someone's like, man, did you watch Transformers? Man, that was amazing. So of course that's valid. I can't deny the fact, and only I know that to be a fact because of what I've experienced. Because I know where I was, and then I know what happened afterwards. I'm just like, hold up, man, that had to be supernatural power. Do you see? But anyway, going back to repeat your first point, the point that you said I didn't answer.
Right. So the first one is what exactly has the devil done
Right. Yes.
versus
Okay.
what God has done that could be classed as evil. And the second part was what are these prophecies that have been made that we can see
Right. I remember now. Okay.
that's out with the Bible. So I don't want to hear like Old Testament prophecy of Jesus coming back.
Right.
I want something out with the Bible.
Right. Okay. I'll answer the second one, then I'll try and answer the first one if I can. The second one, there are prophecies in the book of, particularly the book of Daniel, which speaks of specific kingdoms rising up. Pardon me, specific kingdoms. Now, if I cite the answer, obviously, if we're not in agreement, it might sound weird. So I don't want to cite specific what I believe the interpretations are. So I'm kind of, I don't know if do you want me to just give? Do you want me to just give the answer? Or do you want me to give it in a broad sense? Would you?
I mean, give it with any way that you feel comfortable with, and then we can discuss it.
Well, you can't discuss because you ain't studied it. It takes time to study the book of Daniel.
Don't assume he hasn't. Just throw it out, family. Let's see what you're working with.
Yeah, so yeah, okay, true. All right, but I meant not just him personally, but everyone who's listening. Okay, all right, I'll just say what I believe the interpretations are. So the book of Daniel, trying to be very brief as possible, that especially Daniel chapter 2, King Nebuchadnezzar had a dream, and he saw the rise and fall of nations. All right. Yes, there is debate about when the book of Daniel, the authorship of the book of Daniel, was it Daniel? But there's very good evidence that refutes that Daniel was written in the time of the Roman Empire. Now, what's good about those? So anyway, the rise and fall of the four kingdoms, Babylon, Medo-Persia, the dream was given at the time that Daniel was in the courts of Babylon. But then it prophesied about the Medes and the Persians rising up, the Greece, and then the Roman Empire. Now, when you read that text very carefully in the book of Daniel, he said a weaker kingdom is going to rise up and fall. Now, when you look at that statement, history, that prophecy doesn't, if someone's going to make a prophecy about a nation taking over another nation, and they were going to say a weaker kingdom, it doesn't make any sense. And then the third one, weaker, is going to take over the second one. And when you then see how these words were said thousands of years before, and then you researched the history penned down by historians who have no bias, not by Christians, not by Jews, by historians. When you look at how the Grecian Empire took over the Medes and Persians, when you look at, that's where the movie, if some of you might know this, the movie 300 was inspired by, right? You research, don't comment on the numbers, but you had millions of the Medo-Persian armies, and then a few hundred Grecian just wiping them out. Now, you know, no one could have, that's not logic to say a weaker kingdom is going to take over a stronger kingdom. And secondly, how would he have known that there was only going to be
what kingdom took over what kingdom?
So the Grecians took over the Medes and Persians, the Medo-Persian Empire. So in Daniel chapter 2, there's a prophecy given there. The dream was given to King Nebuchadnezzar. He asked these wise men, look, man, he called his guys, give me the interpretation. No one knew what the interpretation, because no one knew what he dreamt. But Nebuchadnezzar, believing that his men had connections to the gods, they responded, said, look, only the gods could reveal to you this. Now, Daniel being one of the wise men, all of them were going to get killed, because the Nebuchadnezzar thought he'd been duped and deceived by these guys. So Daniel goes and prays with his friends, and God gives him the interpretation and what Nebuchadnezzar dreamt. And so Daniel then interprets to Nebuchadnezzar.
So how much years later is the Greek takeover of the Persian Empire?
Right. So when Daniel was given the dream, he's already under Babylonian rule. So he says, he starts in Daniel 2, thou king art this head of gold, because the image was, the dream was a head of gold, breasts and arms of silver, belly and thighs of brass, and legs of iron, and feet of iron of clay. So at the time the dream is given, it's around when Nebuchadnezzar took over Jerusalem, the third siege, which is approximately about 605 BC, right? 605 BC. And then so after Babylon, he prophesies a second kingdom inferior to thee is going to rise up and take over. The Medes and the Persians were two kingdoms that came together. they took over the kingdom of Babylon. Then he said a third kingdom is going to take over, and then a fourth. And these, so to prophesy. So to answer your question, the Grecian Empire, you can correct the dates. They came up in about, I believe it's 538 to, so it's, I think it's 33 BC to 168 BC. I can't remember the date specifically, right? But in Daniel 2, there are no dates given as to the rise and fall. That was not the specification of the prophecy. The prophecy was just how many kingdoms are going to be. And the fact, the point I was answering in Edo's question was that the statements being made makes no sense to logic of how nations work. Nations usually take over, a stronger nation takes over a weaker nation. But here prophecy is being given that weaker kingdoms are taking over each other. And the fact that he says four, so gold, silver, brass. And then when you look at also how these kingdoms represented themselves as well in the history, they represented themselves like, what does the historians call Rome? The Iron Monarchy, right? And Greece was known for its brass when using its military warfare.
Can I ask you something as well?
Sorry?
Yeah, you're repeating literal sarcasm, and I don't know if you're aware of it.
Me?
Right. Let me, can I ask you something?
Sorry, now just me, sarcasm.
No, understand. I'm saying it's literal sarcasm, like it's written down for you to recite. And I don't know if you're aware of those verses. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're talking about weaker nations, look who you're talking to and how it applies in the sense that you're using it in real life and not in that ancient literature that in some way you separated it from talking about who it's talking about.
He's saying it's allegory and you're taking it literally.
No, it's not an allegory at all, because there's archaeological evidence for the kingdom that Babylon actually existed. There's a tablet with Nebuchadnezzar's name on it. So it's not allegory. There's archaeological evidence in the 1800s, before there was any archaeological evidence that Babylon even existed. The skeptics of that day, right, to Bible believers said, oh, look at your book, look at the Bible, Babylon, where's their proof of Babylon? Only the Bible says it's Babylon. And then they had to kind of quiet themselves on that one particular point when they found archaeological evidence. So
I understand, but I don't think anybody here agrees with you.
No, that's fine. You don't agree, but it's not allegory, because archaeological evidence has been found with the names of these kings in the book of Daniel.
Can I ask you something?
That people existed, so it's not an allegory.
Can I ask you something?
Yes, Chris, definitely.
When is the earliest manuscript that we have of that?
Before I answer that, I was just trying to finish answering Edo's question about the prophecy in it, the prophecies.
We were good, but you laid some down, so we felt what you was going on.
Yeah, so let me that's right. Let me simplify, because instead of giving the interpretation, let me put it as short as I can, in that the book of Daniel prophesies the rise and fall of nations way before that happened. Daniel chapter 7 prophesies who the Antichrist kingdom is, to the letter, to the date, with 11 identifying marks. You've got time prophecies in the book of Daniel chapter 9 to the exact date Jesus is going to be baptized, to the exact date of his crucifixion. And the book of, what else? Yeah, those for me are the clearest prophecies.
I mean,
but listen, let me just ask, because you said about history, and as a historian I have to ask, so when's the earliest manuscript of this?
Earliest manuscript of what?
This story.
The account of Daniel.
Yeah.
You mean your So, Kush, are you asking me when the earliest manuscript for the book of Daniel was?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the exact date for the earliest manuscript for the book of Daniel, the Old Testament manuscripts.
I ain't doubting what you're saying, but if the manuscript turns out to be after.
Yeah,
no, the manuscript. No. Like I said, that there are theologians who doubt that the author of the book of Daniel was Daniel itself, but that's why I started my answer that there is loads of evidence. I'm not going to go into them now, but you can research those yourself. There's loads of good evidence to show that the author is, because there's other theologians who disagree, and they give very good evidence to show that the book of Daniel was the author of Daniel. There's many different, I've got a whole book and there's many different evidences to show that the author, and the reason why that the skeptics, in Britannica, when you look at the book, research book of Daniel, they say that the author, it was about 168. It must have been written in the time of the Roman Empire. And the reasons they give is that because it's too accurate. There's no way it could have prophesied of these things, because so what that does show is that the skeptics understand the interpretation that these four kingdoms, because it doesn't mention their names in Daniel 2, but the descriptions you see, well, world history fits with that clearly. So that's kind of so that's.
Not really, because what you
didn't finish my point really.
Well, but I thought you had. I mean,
got you, brother. We got you. We got you.
Yeah, I mean, what you have is a story, and people have fitted reality around it.
No.
I mean,
remember,
hold on. Hold on.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody here has read the Bible codes. Now, if you read the Bible codes, they basically created they discovered this code, and they created a computer program around this code that allows you to predict things with the Bible. So, for example, 9/11 was predicted in the Bible with the Bible codes. JFK assassination was predicted with the Bible codes. The fact that they couldn't use actual names and they're using vague references makes the prophecy meaningless. Because it's like I said, how many nations have risen and fallen? How many empires have risen?
No.
That's clearly a subjective form of reasoning that you just stated, sir. That does not disprove what the gentleman here is saying about the prophecies mentioned in the book of Daniel being accurate. So you haven't disproven that the writings of Daniel precede the actual events that did occur. You're just making subjective assertions here that really can't be substantiated.
So when's the earliest manuscript? Then we'll know.
I don't know.
So we have to find that information, and we'll know.
But how's that relevant though? You saying that
because if the earliest manuscript comes after,
you can find manuscripts that come after the events, then therefore the events were written to surround the events. I mean, the manuscripts were written after the event.
Basically, that's what he's saying. So if it's happened, then they write about it afterwards.
Then see, but that's an unsubstantiated assertion as well, because you're gonna have to date. I mean, you were talking about earlier in another conversation about carbon dating material. You can tell how old this writing is and that writing is and stuff like that. Well, that's another one of the obstacles that you making this assertion is going to have to validate.
Are you okay? You're just like coming in like saying assertion, stuttering, saying things are subjective, and like shitting over the conversation.
Are you upset about what I'm saying though?
I don't think you're coming for understanding, brother. You're just making claims. You just came in here blasting. Like, take it down a notch.
Well, can you refute what I'm saying?
Jesus.
Jesus is
came in and took the spotlight. Oh, Jesus is here with you, right? Right. I got you.
All right, calm down, bro. Calm down. I mean,
free to talk. But yeah, like I said, anyway, what I'm saying is obviously we'd have to use our logical brains that God gave us, and we'd have to assume that if the manuscript was after these facts, then we can't say it's a prophecy.
But that's still
Can I answer that question?
Come on, answer. No, but I'm being honest because listen, if I write, if a football match happens and I write the score down after the football match, yeah, and then I say, oh, before this football match, yeah, I guess the score is going to be 3-0. That is not really what happened, is it?
You're still using an assertion that is not.
I'm not using an assertion, but we have to use a lot. History is objective.
What you're saying makes sense, but it's not.
I'm being objective. I'm not being subjective, which you are being. What I'm saying is what I'm being is the truth, and the truth of the matter is, if we come to the conclusion in any other, if it was any other thing, but the Bible, we would all assume that yes, it came
How can
after, so it
no,
can't be a prophecy.
how can it be the truth if you haven't proven it yet? You came
Well,
up with
just
the point.
saying,
That's
if
what
it
I'm
is,
saying.
saying if it is, it could be. It could be.
Okay,
It could
now
be
you
from earlier, and I could be wrong. But because you
right.
haven't bothered to go and do the research, you also can't say whether it's wrong. So we're both
Right.
sitting here, both on the fence, until somebody goes and researches it.
Can I answer that question about the manuscripts?
We're gonna let you answer preaching, but Beckel, if you can help brother preaching produce the primary resource so that it can be validated.
Right.
The primary resources of what?
Well, you do know what the discussion is about, right?
Daniel, of the prophecy?
Right. He's saying that
Okay.
the date is about 168. So do you have any primary resource? Do you have like a vessel? Do you have like a cylinder seal or anything that states that date would be correct? Can you bring that forth for him?
Yeah, sure. They actually do have something called this. I think it's called a steel, but it actually looks like a cylinder with a bunch of writing on it, and it talks about people like, for example, what's his name? Belshazzar. No, yeah, Belshazzar, which was the grandson. Yeah, which was the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah, Belteshazzar.
Yeah, Belteshazzar. Yeah, Belshazzar was
cylinders from the. I know exactly the cylinders you're talking about.
Yep. Yeah, so I mean, now if you're talking about the specific prophecy of Christ's return, the prophecy of Christ entering into the, entering Jerusalem on a donkey, or his resurrection or his death, that I have to get back to you with. I don't have the information that you're looking for there, but I haven't seen any strong evidence against it either. I mean, what I keep hearing is arguments that, oh, this was written after the fact. Well, you don't have any evidence of that. I mean, that's just an assertion that hasn't been validated yet.
There is, but if no one on this panel has it, I'm not going to speak on it today. Go ahead.
That's good.
Wait, hold on real quick. You mean no evidence? What do you mean by like what? No written documentation to prove that something's older than what it is?
Like documentation or actual primary resources to show that this actually took place, because otherwise it's just a story, right?
Oh no, wait, that it took place or that it was prophesied and then took place? I mean, which argument are you looking at? Because you're talking about two different things.
Because they go together.
Okay, they do, but we're talking about two different
things. If you prophesize something down, the evidence of what was prophesied will come to pass, and we'll have some evidence later. They go together.
But what I'm saying to you though is that you're arguing from two different perspectives here. One argument is, did the events actually happen? The other argument is, wait. Let me finish. You got two arguments. One argument is, did the events that happened in the book of Daniel, did these happen after they were written or before? That's one argument. And the other argument is, did these actually happen? Did these events actually happen? You see what I'm saying? So
which if you produce the primary resource, it's going to prove both of them, right?
If you have what do you mean by primary resource?
Can I say something?
A primary resource is a physical evidence. Go ahead, brother Nick, real quick.
We do have that. Yeah, go ahead.
I think the oldest copy of Daniel is from the Dead Sea Scrolls, but by examining the style of the Hebrew, they date it to around the time when it says it was written, because it's similar to other books that were written around that same time.
Yeah, we have historical evidence of King Cyrus taking over, Babylon. There's all kinds of extra biblical material talking about King Cyrus and how he was the one king that took over Babylon.
All right, it says here, that the Dead Sea Scrolls. It says that the Dead Sea Scrolls is between 150 BC to 70 AD. That's where they think the time it was written. Between 150 BC to 70 AD.
The Dead Sea Scrolls are what? They're copies.
But by looking at the style of the Hebrew, you can date it much earlier.
No, but you said the earliest physical evidence
are copies of
No one can understand.
Nobody
finish the statement. Finish your statement. Then Nate go in. Then Kush come back with the refute. Go ahead. Start Beckel.
All right. First of all, when you're talking about we're slowly going off topic just a tad bit. When you're talking about those the manuscripts that were found in the Qumran caves, okay, back in the 40s, those are copies. Those are copies of copies. No scholar claims that they were original. So you can't look at those and say that these were the originals. These are the originals, and this is as far back as they go. No. I mean, any scholar who studies, papyri and manuscripts, they'll tell you nobody has ever seen a copy of the originals. No one.
Okay, now
copies of copies.
Yeah. Beckel, you done? Okay, you done. So Nate, go ahead, add to that. I've seen some of the cylinder seals. They're right in the Metropolitan Museum. Go ahead, brother Nate.
All right. According to that research paper, which I very briefly glanced at, that I linked, it says the style of the Hebrew writing is similar to books that were written, around the same time as Daniel claims it was written. And that's one method of dating manuscripts.
Okay, brother. Preacher, go. Then we got you, African, right after. Then we're going to hit Kush right after for the rebuttal.
All right. So just quickly, just moving on that last point. That what's his name? Beckel said. Any character that for example, I'm so tired, my brain is not firing. You've got what those Greek famous scholars, Socrates and their writings, all ancient documents were copied to safeguard. The ancients knew this because papyrus didn't last forever.
Right.
And so these guys are not disputed as ever existing. And when you look at when you research how many copies we have available of their writings, there's very few in comparison. In fact, the Bible, in terms of the New Testament, we're talking about Old Testament, I know particularly, but the New Testament has the most copies of any ancient document around, and the accuracy between them is astounding. It's ridiculously astounding. So when we're talking about original copies and documents, there is no original copies of when we're talking about this era of our Earth's history anyway. They copy these things down, and there is a test that scholars and researchers do to verify, and you can research what those tests are to verify how closely the copies are to the original and an accuracy. And it's a test that just doesn't involve theology or bias. It's just a test, a test they put on any ancient document, whether it be about Greek history or biblical, a text that's claiming biblical history and spirituality and all those things. So I just wanted to mention that point there, and that research is freely available there online, and it's quite compelling.
Hey, can I say this before Kush real quick?
Yeah, guys.
Yo, people, I need to go. Just want to say good night because it's late for me here. But maybe so take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah, brother. In the UK, it's late here, guys. So
Sulu, let me add this real quick.
It got too hot.
It's important to what Beckel has said.
It's 3 in the morning.
You got the silver scroll that they found also, and that's of Numbers 6:23 through 27. That was found, and it's dated to 600 BCE. So you can't just go off the Dead Sea Scrolls as if they're the oldest. That's all. Good night, guys.
Good night, Brad.
I'm gonna end the show now. You can continue off live if you want for the American viewers. I've given Esther moderation. I've given Edo moderation as well, so you guys can control the hangout when I'm gone. But yeah, just to end it for the viewers, I'd like to thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for paying attention. Hope you enjoyed the conversation. And peace.
I'm